Welcome. It's nice to have you here. I hope you enjoy it. I think you will.
You're listening to the Jam Session Podcast.
I was told that I could listen to the radio at a reasonable volume.
With Cowboys insider...
What's your name?
Jean-Jacques Taylor.
That's my name.
Radio personality and craft beer expert, Matt McLaren.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot. Comes from upbringing.
And now, the Jam Session Podcast. It is indeed Jam Session. Subscribe, rate, and review, and hang out with us for a while. Right here on Jam Session. The moment we've all been waiting for has arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, the radio, TV, and now podcast star, the sexy Jean-Jacques Taylor.
What up, dog?
I would be the non-sexy one, Matt McLaren. And this is Jam Session, the podcast, version 18, asking simply that you prepare to be dazzled,
if not entertained.
And as always, we start you off by telling you about some of our great sponsors and, of course, ask that you support our sponsors because they support us and make all of this possible. Would love to tell you about one of our newest sponsors, attorney Chris W. Fitzgerald with Fitzgerald Law. And I was talking about this on the last podcast. Lawyers are one of those things in life that you never know you need one till you need one. So it's always good to have one in mind, and that's where Chris comes in. He can help you. He's already helped us with some of our legal questions we had with the formation of our business here with Jam Session Media, LLC. He covers a variety of areas like probate, like if somebody dies with a will, without a will, contracts, business transactions, as I mentioned, consumer bankruptcy, all sorts of things. And one of the things that he is offering that I think we're going to see a lot of professions move to, he does virtual law practice. So he's able to handle a variety of needs almost exclusively online without having to meet in person because a lot of things, including courts, are changing and moving in-person hearings to telephonic or Zoom type meetings. And Chris has you covered there. You can contact him by calling 972-842-4220, 972-842-4220. 4220, or simply check him out online. You can find more information and contact him that way as well. ChrisFitzgeraldLaw.com. That's ChrisFitzgeraldLaw.com. And of course, our next guys, Blue Star Motor Group. We've been telling you about them, and I know at some point everybody is in the market for a vehicle. And a lot of the times it makes sense not only to buy local, but to buy pre-owned. And that's where Blue Star Motor Group comes in, a local husband and wife team. They have over 50 combined years of experience in the car business, specializing in superior quality, Carfax certified pre-owned vehicles of all makes and models. So whatever you have in mind, like, I don't know, maybe you have somebody coming up that's turning 16 and you're looking for that car, or maybe for yourself. Blue Star Motor Group can help you. Give Deb a call if you would like to know the value of your car, retail versus the wholesale. If you're looking to sell, if you're looking to buy, give Deb a call at Blue Star Motor Group. I would encourage you, find them on Instagram and check them out there, but also check out their website at bluestarmotorgroup.com. Check out their inventory, their pricing, and they're going to take care of you. They are big fans of Jam Session. We really appreciate their support. So again, that's bluestarmotorgroup.com. And I would imagine once you get a car, you got to get it serviced, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's one of the things I feel like with cars that we're always looking for a great place to take it for the simple things like oil changes or alignments or what have you. And this is where Freeway Tire Shop comes into play. Easy to get to in Dallas, right off of 35. JR and the dudes over at Freeway Tire Shop will take care of you, take care of your service needs. As I mentioned, state inspections, which are always one of those things that come up. You're like, damn, I got to get it again. Seems like it was just a month ago. State inspections, oil changes, alignments, and of course, tires. It's Freeway Tire Shop. With competitive pricing and elite customer service, they will take care of the Jam Session audience. So check out what they do at freewaytireshop.com. And of course, online, you can schedule an appointment, request a quote. Again, that's freewaytireshop.com. But let's get this episode going, shall we? And as we normally do a couple of days after the Cowboys game, we like to take a look at those 4 plays, and perhaps you forgot about them. I don't know. Maybe some of you are like, oh, I bet I can name all 4. That would be impressive. But these are the plays that maybe didn't stick out as much in your mind at the time that perhaps had a meaning during the course of the game that led to either a win or, of course, in the case this season goes, a loss. for the Dallas Cowboys, who are now 2-7. So let's start you off with this first one. And this, of course, is fairly early in the game. First quarter, 9 minutes and 33 seconds left. It's still a tied game, no score. It's 3rd and 2 for the Dallas Cowboys.
3rd and 2 facing Gilbert.
And this is exactly right. All 3 plays, 3 wide receivers to start the game.
Pass downfield. Beautiful throw to Amari Cooper. And the Cowboys have a big gain.
Wow, this is exactly what we said here. Cooper's right here. Now you look. He's right there. He's going to run the same route Claypool did. And because you have good matchups, they got talent at wide receiver.
Indeed they do. And that was one of those plays I think that stands out to everybody because all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, a 20-plus yard play down the field?
That's exactly my thought, man, because, think about it. We hadn't seen any big plays from the passing game basically since Dak left. I mean, all these terrific receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, they were rendered useless because they couldn't drive the ball down the field or they couldn't protect the quarterback long enough to get the ball down the field. So here we are, first drive. He gets a legitimate time to throw, a legitimate catch, a legitimate throw. It's you're like, hey, I don't think they're going to win, but hey, maybe it'll be interesting. Maybe they'll make a move. Maybe they'll score a touchdown. My God, anything's possible.
Yeah, that led to all the possibilities in your mind and also kind of led you to believe, because that was a really nice pass from Garrett Gilbert. I mean, he dropped that thing in perfectly placed for Amari Cooper, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, this dude can at least play in a game or two, and Ben DiNucci looks like he's not even supposed to be in the league. But we move forward from that play to our next play, which would come late in the first half. 1 minute and 10 seconds left. It is a 1st and 10, and this is a killer here with the Cowboys up 13-6, and maybe, just maybe, an opportunity to drive down here and pick up some points before the end of the half.
Cowboys, remember, deferred at the top. So can they do a little business? Got a flag out in the final minute of the first half and then get the football back for the third quarter.
Well, that's an outstanding job by Gilbert stepping up, playing a great first half, moving in the pocket.
Illegal formation. Offense, number 78. Not lined up on the line of scrimmage. 5-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Well, and that's Steele, the right tackle, going against T.J. Watt. He just wants to get out of his stance, so he's lined up a little deep. So what happens a lot of times is you get a warning. And McCarthy says, you should tell me a warning first. And he goes, well, he's lined up deep. And you'll see right there. See how far behind the center he is? He's trying to cheat that a little bit with Watt. He is too deep.
I thought that was really, look, Romo is one of the best, if not the best in the business for a reason. That was fantastic analysis as he really tells you exactly what the situation was there. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, because Terrence Steele was freaking out about TJ Watt, it eliminated what happens there is that was a 20-yard pass to Dalton Schultz. So instead of 1st and 10 at your own 45, where you've got time maybe to at least get in a field goal range, you now have a 1st and 15 from your own 20.
Dude, that's exactly what it was, man. It was the catch and run to Dalton Schultz was a perfect, couldn't plan it any better drive starter. That goes, oh, hell, we can get points. Let's go for it. And instead, now it's 2nd and long. And, the importance of this play is not only do you not get the drive starter and the feel good that comes with it, the next play is a turnover and Pittsburgh ends up with points.
Yeah, it's it's just one of those unfortunate happenstances in the course of a game from a guy who ideally probably would not be. And that's what I don't understand
in the league.
Right. In the League One, I was going to say starting, but in the league is probably a good idea. You're talking about an undrafted rookie free agent who's been out there all year, and I just don't know what it is that they see about him where they consistently continue to put that guy out there. I just scratched my head and went, like, so that's it. You literally have no other options other than him.
Nah, I think at this particular point, with Brandon Knight hurt and everybody else hurt, they probably don't have any other options other than him. Now, earlier in the season, they may have had a couple, but now they're just kind of hamstrung, bro. But this is what happens when you have bad players in the lineup on a regular basis, man. Now, I understand it. He's got to cheat because he's nowhere. I mean, he can't stop TJ Watt. So I get it. I really do. But this is the fallout from having that guy on your team right now.
So we will go from our first two plays to two more plays here, and the four plays that changed the outcome of the Cowboys' loss to the Steelers on Sunday afternoon. We take you to the third quarter. Late in the third quarter, as a matter of fact, 2 minutes and 46 seconds are left, and this is where Dallas is driving. Right now, it looks good. Could they convert a third down? It is 3rd and 9 from the Pittsburgh 30.
They're going to run it again, 3rd and long, and that last effort may have done it. Let's see now. Now they come back inside the orange stripe.
This is close. We're going to have to see a replay of this because they've probably got the right spot based on what we saw initially. Ooh, that's close.
I don't know about that spot.
Look at it's the right elbow. I think he got it. Now he's short. It's perfect spot.
Yeah,
I'm saying it's a perfect spot.
Well, now you've got to make the perfect decision. Field goal
so
on this drive would give you a 2-score lead. It's going to be 4th and inches. Again, it could put you up 2 scores, and Zerline's been 3 for 3 already. But you've got 4th and less than a foot.
I'd go for it. I'd go for it always. I mean, everyone says you're going to go up 2 scores, but there's too much time left against a veteran quarterback.
2-possession lead, though.
I know, but you got to assume it's not like it's 4th and 3, Jim. Yep. It's inches. Like, how many 4th and inches get stopped in the NFL? Not 4th and 1s, inches. You could quarterback sneak it, jump up and dive with the ball for a second, and you get it.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of us were saying the same thing Romo was saying right there.
Well, I think the thing about it was nobody believed, okay, maybe a couple people, believed a 10-point lead with 2 minutes left in the third quarter was going to win the game. Like, okay, if we get to 19, it's a wrap. It's done. It's over. They're not going to get more than 19. Nobody believed that, Doug. So if nobody believed it, then my only point is, and I should say this, to me, there really is not a right or wrong answer on this particular play. I mean, you're fine if you kick the field goal and you make it 19-9, but if you're trying to win the game, like here's an opportunity to really win the game and apply some pressure. Because I always go to the next step, like, okay, if you score, what's the score if they score? It's 23-9. Now, what about this, Matt? What if we score? Our defense is all hyped because we just went up 23-9. We get a 3 and out or a 4 and out. We get the ball back. Now we kick a field goal. It's 26-9. It's a wrap. Y'all are done. But if you kick the field goal and you kick another field goal, it's only 22-9, and it's still not really over.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because 2 points and you lose 23-22. 2 touchdowns, you lose 23-22. So my only thing was there was a rare opportunity there with your $90 million running back and your Hall of Fame right guard to say, hey, and don't forget, man, the quarterback this week was 6'3", 230, and you needed an inch.
Yeah.
I would have gone for it.
I would have gone for it as well because of all the reasons that you just said. It's a decision they decided not to make, and they kicked the field goal instead, and it ended up, of course, not being enough and gave Pittsburgh obviously a window of opportunity there where perhaps they understood, okay, we're still in this thing. We don't have to score 2 touchdowns to get back in it. And that would kind of play out as we would go through to our next play with an opportunity. Of course, as we know now, Pittsburgh would score on the very first play of the fourth quarter. It would be 19-15. It's early in the fourth quarter here. Dallas is driving. It's a 3rd and 5 from the Pitt 5 with just under 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
They hit him when he throws it. He's intercepted. Who else? Mika Fitzpatrick tackled down by Cooper.
And, of course, when the game's on the line, you have a defense that comes up with a big pick, but there's a flag. Is it coming back, Jim? I think it might be on the defense.
Well, Gilbert looks like he knows it is.
Now, the big thing is this, though. Was the ball tipped? It hit when it got going in the air. If it's a hold or something early, then they're going to call it.
After the interception and during the return, personal foul, blindside block, defense number 34. The penalty be assessed half the distance to the goal from the 2-yard line. First down.
Gilbert looked like he thought they were going to get another play. The interception would be nullified, but no. It'll just mean a difference of about 4 or 5 yards. Dallas comes up with the takeaway in the red zone.
Yeah, and of course, yes, Gilbert was hoping it happened before the interception because he threw such a poor pass and made a bad decision there. Obviously, as you heard the breakdown, the penalty was after Minkah Fitzpatrick had intercepted the ball, so Pittsburgh just started at their own 1-yard line instead. But it's the difference in sometimes, and we talked about this on the podcast that dropped a couple of days ago, the difference between a guy like Ben Roethlisberger and a guy like Garrett Gilbert trying to force a pass in that situation when he didn't need to. Even a field goal right there can change things, and unfortunately, he does make the decision. It's just a bad throw. No idea what he was trying to do right there.
Well, I've did a little research. I have an idea of what he was trying to do right there, man. He thought the play was covered, and so he was throwing it out of the back of the end zone. That was the plan. But he got hit just as he threw, thus the ball fluttered, thus Minkah. Now, that's his story, and he's sticking to it. And the ball fluttered, and Minkah Fitzpatrick picked it off, and it was yet another red zone turnover, yet another opportunity where the points came off the board. And I don't know, bro. This team is minus... What is it? Minus 13 in turnovers.
Right.
The next worst team is minus 7. Think about that. They have twice as many turnovers, basically, as the next worst team.
God, that's amazing.
They've committed 20 turnovers, 3 more than Philadelphia and 3 more than Denver, which are, the next 2 worst teams. It's an mitigated disaster, bro.
Yeah, that's unbelievably impressive. I mean, keep in mind, you've turned it over 20 times in 9 games, which means you're on pace for somewhere in between like 36 and probably 38 turnovers in a 16-game season. That's incredible.
They do it twice a week, bro.
That's incredible.
Set your watch by it, man. It's about that time. It's about that time. It's about that time.
I did the math wrong on that, but 32 to 35 turnovers is what you're looking at, for the Dallas Cowboys. If they continue doing this throughout the course of the season, which we've seen nothing that would indicate that they won't.
Check this out, man. Who's got the fewest turnovers in the league?
Probably the Chiefs or the Steelers.
Green Bay with 3.
Oh, that makes sense because Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw picks.
Think about it, man. Green Bay got 3 turnovers.
God, that's incredible.
In 9 games, your Dallas Cowboys got 20.
That's amazing.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Wow.
They got 20 turnovers, man, and obviously I was looking this up, as you could tell. I think the kind of like the cutoff is like 16 or 17 teams have 10 or fewer. So I mean they're just so far above anything that's normal in today's NFL this season. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, man, that's really, really wild to think that somebody could turn it over that many times. I mean, that is absurd. I mean, yes, it's not. I think the NFL record is something absurd, like 60 turnovers. Like
is it really that many?
Yeah, like it's absolutely bizarre when you start thinking about it. So they're not going to approach like that type of thing. But we're talking, that was back before I was born. I mean, that was over 40 years ago when teams were turning the ball over that many times. But if you're going to finish with 32, 35 turnovers, I mean, in today's game,
we got to find the team record, man.
God, that's what I was wondering, because that is comical. I mean, that is absolutely comical that you could turn the ball over on average 2 times a game, which is why you're going to finish, whatever it is, 3-13, 4-12. I still think they're going to stumble into a win somewhere along the way. They almost did on Sunday. We'll move on here as we continue. And before we take our trip around the block, I want to tell you about a couple more of our sponsors. Of course, our good friends at Fall Sidle Brewing in North Richland Hills. They're the ones that did the Jam Session IPA that was so good, which you can still find on tap at a couple of places. I believe Taps and Caps. I think that was where I saw it in Fort Worth earlier this week. But the Jam Session IPA, they do a variety of great beers. Return to the Stack, which was that French toast beer that you liked so much, that stout that we had while we were there. Man, the OG Buff is a beer that they brewed for Dom, one of the owners, his dad, and they brewed it for him, and God, that was a phenomenal stout. They always have some great beers on tap. It's a fantastic tap room. If you're in the North Richland Hills area, or you don't mind drive, like I live in Irving, so it's like 15 minutes for me, and I go up there all the time. And what's really cool is on a nice day, their tap room is built like in an old service station. So they have those big garage doors they can open.
Right.
So on a really nice day, they open those garage doors and it's just beautiful inside the brewery. They got a nice little patio area. False Idol Brewing. Find them, check them out, follow them on Instagram. That's the best way to find out what they have coming up and what their schedule is, what beers they have on tap and things like that. False Idol Brewing. We appreciate the support of those guys. So as we get set to take our trip around the block, local guys talking about local things as we like to do, I came across this story, and I don't know why it made me sad. I don't even know if I've ever had this. But Greenberg Smoked Turkey Incorporated, Greenberg Smoked Turkey Incorporated, which is one of the largest producers of smoked turkeys in the world, is located out in Tyler. And they have shut down all of their smoked turkey production after a fire and 2 explosions destroyed a part of their facility back on November the 6th. And this is crazy because they usually sell about 200,000 smoked turkeys for the holiday season.
Right.
A freezer holding 87,000 smoked turkeys exploded and burned the boxes and bags that they used to ship the turkeys. So therefore, they have decided they cannot produce anymore. So you're talking about a company, like I said, that normally sells about 200,000 that lost almost half of what they normally sell in a holiday season.
That's terrible, bro.
It is, and
it's terrible, and it's a business like that. While it's terrible for them, they can certainly rebuild a little bit bigger, a little bit better. But the other thing is, man, all those people who relied on that for their holiday festivities, now those people will be out and about looking to see how they can, how they can go make it happen on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving and Christmas, obviously, I think everybody who's ever listened to the show knows that I absolutely love turkey. I don't know if I've ever had one of these, but apparently these are extraordinarily famous smoked turkeys, so much so they've been around since 1938. And back in 2003, Oprah Winfrey, I think we all know who Oprah is. She put that on her favorite things list of 2003.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's always good for business.
Yeah, I would imagine they did pretty well when Oprah came and said, look, go eat this.
I was just reading something in Oprah's magazine. Yes, I read Oprah's magazine from time to time. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she said Jam Session was her favorite podcast.
I was just about to say, we got to figure out how to get her to list us as her favorite podcast of 2020 or 2021 or whatever. That'd be pretty awesome, huh?
Just take my word for it. I'm pretty sure she said it.
And so the dude that owns this company, I imagine he's really old. It doesn't say his age in this article, but obviously, like, his family started it and he runs it now. Here's what he says about it. We will rebuild. Whatever that was. We will rebuild. God. We will rebuild.
Rebuild.
Jeez, what is wrong with me today?
So if you say rebuild, then you don't have it. If you say rebuild, you can have it.
We will rebuild. We will be smoking turkeys in 2021 and to hell with 2020. That's his quote.
Dude, you know how many people want to say to hell with 2020?
That's so awesome.
Like just about the world.
Oh, man. Yeah, and that sucks, man. I mean, I wonder, it'd be kind of really interesting to see, because I was thinking, all right, so they're already smoked and you're waiting to ship them, but yeah, I don't mind, maybe it got smoked a little bit more, but I was like, man, if they burned up in the fire, that sucks.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm pretty sure they're charred. It's charred turkey.
Yeah, they're probably just ash at this point.
Yeah, it's not smoke anymore.
Yeah.
Too much heat.
Yeah, I would imagine. But, turkey is one of those things. I think everybody on Thanksgiving is looking for turkey. Christmas is a different beast because a lot of people do ham at Christmas, I think.
Do you not like ham?
I like ham just fine. I'm trying to think, this Christmas will be, I forgot, we're having a life transition Christmas.
What the hell is that?
Well, you know how Christmas traditions... See, this is what's interesting for the holidays. Maybe when you get married or you have like a significant other and you're really serious, you start going to each other's families, and sometimes it's not convenient to do both. Like, right. I think I recall for the most part, we go to my lady friend's family's Thanksgiving and not my family. I don't know why, but my family for years, ever since my grandparents died, we haven't really had like a big Thanksgiving. Like my parents will have it at their house. I think maybe we did go there last year. I'm trying to remember. Maybe we rotate. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. Thanksgiving to me is just a Thursday that people, I don't know, like it doesn't really do a lot for me.
Wow.
I'm just saying, as long as I can watch the Cowboys game on Thanksgiving, I'm good.
Well, that doesn't require you much.
I know it doesn't, but you'd be surprised. I mean, there are people in this world who it is not a family tradition of theirs to watch the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, which I find mind-blowing. Like it's the most bizarre thing ever when you are with somebody and you go to their family's place and they're like, oh, yeah, we can get the Cowboys game. I was like, what do you mean you can?
You mean it's not like on the list of things
right.
to do?
Like you haven't designed your day around like your meal planning with everybody else to make sure you're done and ready to go for the mid-afternoon kickoff at 2:30 or 3 or whatever it is for the Cowboy game? What the hell's wrong with you?
God.
No, I'm not kidding. Like the first time I ever encountered that, I thought they were playing a prank on me because ever since I am a conscious person, that's what especially my family had done. Even when we were going to my grandparents' house, we all ate and made sure everything was good and ready to go where we could sit down and everybody watch the Cowboys game. That's just what we do.
That's what most of America does. That's why they became America's team in large part.
Yeah, but the life transition Christmas that I was talking about, it goes back to the idea that we had Christmas for as long as I can remember. I was trying to remember the last time we didn't have Christmas like this, where now things have changed Christmas morning because with the lady friend, we actually try to see both families on Christmas Day, which is a feat in itself.
Right.
Because her mom lives in Little Rock, Arkansas area. Well, my mom lives in Rockwall. So we try what we do is we're out there Christmas Eve and we wake up Christmas morning and then drive on Christmas Day to see my family so we can see both moms can see their kids on Christmas Day. But with my family, for the last, it's been, I want to say probably around the last 30 years at least, my family has gone to my aunt and uncle's house in Richardson on Christmas Day. Well, unfortunately, they will not be able to host Christmas anymore. They have reached an age where they just can't do it anymore. And so for the first time, I guess it was at my grandparents' house, like my mom's parents who passed when I was 13. And it must have been before my aunt's house. It must have been at their house because I remember that, but I was a little kid. And so now this year, I believe, and this is where it's going to get interesting with COVID and everything. You know, my mom and dad aren't really doing anything. I think the original plan was my mom was going to start hosting it at her house where my family would go over there. But I don't know what's going to happen with Christmas this year with my family. That's going to be interesting to find out. I really don't know.
Well, where does Maddox go?
Well, Maddox, we split the day. So Maddox is with his mom for Christmas morning. And then like it had been where she'll drop him off at my aunt's house in the afternoon so that when we come in from Arkansas, he's already over there. And then I get him Christmas night.
All right. That works. That's
yeah.
good.
Yeah. So that way, you know, he gets to do Santa Claus and everything with them. And then I get him in the afternoon and my family gets to have him and do the presents and all that.
Oh, that's always good.
So this is an interesting holiday season for me. It's one of those things like, are we starting a new tradition, I guess? Hoping that my parents live the next 20 years and we just do it at their house? I don't know.
So you were serious when you said a transitional Christmas.
Yeah, this is a big, like seriously, no, it's a really big one because, you know, my aunt and uncle are in their, gosh, how old are they now? Mid-70s, maybe 75, 77, around there. And unfortunately, just some things that have happened where they just can't host it anymore and they can't have it at their house. And, you know, that's really crazy. I know that my mom will extend an invite to my cousins and their kids, but that's like the one time a year that I see my extended family on that side. And at some point, you know, life transition, it's hard to get everybody, especially with your extended family together. And then you end up doing like the once every other year reunion type thing.
Oh, no, that's, trust me, I know it well. I probably haven't laid eyes on my sister in probably 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult.
Could be longer than that.
Yeah, it's really difficult, but you try and figure all those things out. So we shall see, but who knows? Maybe we'll show up at Thanksgiving this year and we'll have a Greenberg smoked turkey. for the first time ever. But yeah, I know we're going to Little Rock for Thanksgiving this year, I believe. So that'll be a good time. And I've already got the situation figured out to where we can do the podcast after the Cowboys game, but I'll be in Arkansas doing it.
See?
Because all you need is internet.
Baby.
I know, isn't it great?
Technology, baby.
It's going to be fantastic. So elsewhere, we go from the world of smoked turkeys to the world of something that, maybe this guy wasn't local, but I think that all of us, for the most part, remember this, or what he did created a huge part of our childhoods. Ken Spears, who co-created the character of Scooby-Doo, passed away, 82 years old. A 4-time Daytime Emmy nominee. He died a week ago last Friday. So what would that have been? That would have been like November 6th, I believe, something like that. 82 years old, man. And that is the dude who helped, along with his creative partner, to come up with Scooby-Doo and that whole Saturday morning kids programming and all those types of things with Hanna-Barbera for a long time back in the day.
How about that, man? Scooby-Doo. I spent many a Saturday morning watching Scooby-Doo, bro. See, that's because it always made sense to me. It had some mystery, had some intrigue, had some tension before we always figured out it was Mr. Smith from down the street, the angry man or angry woman who was causing all the havoc. But Scooby-Doo, man, the Mystery Machine, one of the great Saturday morning cartoons. Yeah,
it was. And, turned into a couple of movies that came out over the years that were, I guess, if you were a certain age, you probably liked them. But, what kid at some point of your life did not sit down and watch a few Scooby-Doos?
Man, I'm afraid to ask my kids if they know who Scooby-Doo is.
See, we're probably at that generation where it's just not a thing anymore. But Scooby-Doo, man, that was on. It debuted in September of 1969. How about that? And then it lasted for 38 years.
Man, I didn't know it lasted that long.
Yeah, that is a long-ass time, man.
38 years.
And it's such iconic characters. I think if you're of a certain age, and you're probably right, because if you're on TV for 38 years, that means it went off. When did it go off then? That would have been 89, would have been 20, 99 was 30. So it went off in the mid-aughts, I guess, where they weren't doing any more episodes of it. And it's in syndication. You can watch it somewhere.
Yeah. Now, it's always interesting. Like, Scooby the Great Dane is the star, along with his boy Shaggy.
Yeah.
But it seems odd because it doesn't seem like they were meant to be the stars.
No, it doesn't seem like they are. I would agree with that.
Now, were you all about Daphne or Veronica?
Probably whoever the blonde was. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, I think she was a redhead, man.
A redhead? Yeah, a redhead. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I was just looking it up. Yeah, the redhead. I don't remember the girls at all. All I remember, I don't even know their names or the blonde Ken doll guy. All I remember is Shaggy and Scooby-Doo.
Really?
Yeah, man. Couldn't tell you the other guys.
I'm telling you, Daphne, Veronica, and Fred. I'm all about it.
Golly, you are all over Scooby-Doo.
Well, you got to think. Scooby came out when I was 2, so I grew up with Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Up till probably I was about 14 or 15.
All right, fair enough. Retro Shaggy. Remember that? He could kind of talk. It was kind of awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that was cool. And, that Scooby-Doo bus that they all rolled around in, a 1968 Chevrolet Sport van.
It's the Mystery Machine, bro.
Yeah, God, look at you. You're we need to do Scooby-Doo trivia. You would slay it. Golly, you're all over it. Do you know what Shaggy's real first name was?
Yeah, it was Edgar.
Nope.
Okay, I was just playing. I don't know.
No, but you were close. It was a weird-ass name that nobody has ever named anymore. What Norville.
Oh, my God. Like Norville Turner?
Norville Shaggy Rogers was his actual name, originally voiced by Casey Kasem.
Why do you know this?
I was just reading it.
Oh, okay.
How would I know that?
I was going to say, I knew that Casey Kasem did it.
God, Casey Kasem. I didn't know he did that.
No,
Look
I
at
knew
this.
that.
This is crazy.
I knew that.
Who knew all this about Apparently you did. You're like a Scooby-Doo genius.
I'm telling you, man, it was a great show because it had a little bit of mystery and a little bit of intrigue. It's the way I am today, remember? That's why I don't like comedies. Scooby-Doo was kind of mystery with some humor in it, though.
Yeah, so the theme wasn't the theme like Scooby Scooby Doo, where are you? Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, see? I kind of remember it. All right. And now everybody probably knows it from Scooby Snacks.
Nothing wrong with Scooby Snacks, man.
No, nothing at all. So there you have it, Smoked Turkey and Scooby Doo. Both meeting unfortunate ends.
Wow.
There on our trip around the block. As we continue here on Jam Session, it is time once again to welcome in, you know his work, I would hope, from the Dallas Morning News, NFL film analyst John Owning joining us. And John, interesting game. Jacques and I have been talking about it the last couple of episodes we've done on the podcast. I don't know if any of us expected to see what we saw from the Cowboys. What in the world did they do differently defensively that was so effective against an undefeated Steelers team?
Well, I think the first thing that you saw them do is they played a lot more single high defense on base downs, which are like first and second down where there's a decent possibility of a run or pass. They were playing a lot of single high, which means in the box that every player has a gap. When you're playing too high, you're always down a gap, so you have to make that up in some way, whether that's somebody two gapping, whether that's linebackers flinging their fists depending on where the running back is going, all these type of different things. But when you play single high, it's a much more straightforward run fits, and I thought the Cowboys did a much better job defending the run from those single high structures against the Steelers running game. I think the Steelers only ran 18 runs the entire game, and that just goes to show how much better the Cowboys defense plays when they're playing from ahead, when they're able to let their pass rush go and able to put pressure on opposing offenses and take that running game kind of out by the score, because that's their biggest issue. So I think they just did a lot better job of playing from single high structures, being sound in their responsibilities, and guys were actually getting off blocks for one of the first times this entire season.
I was going to say, can this be replicated, or is this a one-time deal?
I think it can be replicated. You take that framework that you had against the Steelers, continue to play those single high defenses on first and second down to try to stop the run. And then when they go into pass heavy situations, then you could start playing those too high, those core coverages, those Tampa 2 coverages that are a lot better, get you a lot more defensive backs available against the pass. So I definitely think it's still replicatable, but this kind of defensive players still continue to get off blocks like they did against the Steelers.
When you look at the individual performances, and I know your latest article where you always break down some 3 things that kind of stood out to you in the game that everybody can read through the Dallas Morning News, whether it's online or you actually get the paper. But you kind of pointed out to the play of Neville Gallimore, one of those guys we were excited to see more of with the release of Dontari Poe. What did you see from him against the Steelers?
Yeah, I thought he did. Against the run especially, he did a much better job playing with proper pad levels that allowed him to establish a leverage advantage against David DeCastro and Marquise Pouncey inside. And that allowed him to do a lot better job than he had been in previous weeks of anchoring at the point of attack. He even did a good job penetrating, playing low, powering through the outside edges of Castro all game long. He was shooting his gaps when he had the ability. And he was causing havoc at the line of scrimmage when he couldn't shoot his gap. It was probably he still had some issues. He still had a couple plays where he got bounced out because he was a little bit hesitant on what type of techniques he was going to use to try to be successful in that certain play. But it was definitely the most impressive performance that he's had thus far in his rookie year. It's a great building block to build off of. If he can continue to be successful like that, going to be a huge boost for the Cowboys defense moving forward. And I think one of the things that makes me even more impressed by is that he did it against good competition. We've had games in the past this year where defensive players have had good games, but it's been against kind of subpar competition. But David DeCastro and Marquise Pouncey, who Gallimore was going against for most of the game Sunday, I think they have like a combined 5 All-Pro nominations between them in their career. So they're the creme de la creme of center right guard combinations, and the fact that Gallimore played extremely well is incredibly impressive and really promising for his future.
Now I do have to tell you, man, you got to explain to the people, what is pad level and why is it important?
Pad level is important, and it's where basically it's just where like your shoulder pads are in relation to the blocker. The old saying is that the low man wins, because when you're lower than the offensive lineman, you play with better leverage. You're underneath them. You're able to explode your contact up into them and through them. Whereas when you're on top, you kind of have to bear down on top of them. It's hard to get under and really lift and create that lifting action that you need to create movement when you make contact, and just the ability to play low, to have the flexibility to drop your pad level, drop your hips low, and drive upward through the opponent. It allows you to maximize your power output and create movement at the point of contact.
Again, we're talking with our NFL film analyst. You can read his work in the Dallas Morning News, John Owning, joining us here on Jam Session. You think you're ever going to get to see your guy, Bradley and I keep wondering if he's ever going to be active and they'll start giving him some snaps.
No, they hate me. I'm assuming they're just trolling me this season.
I know, right?
I assume he'll start to get some run in December or so when, things are really, the season's basically over. But I don't know. It just doesn't make sense why you're letting everybody, all these other draft picks, get a ton of run now that the season is basically lost. But Bradley and now you're not letting him get some run just because a guy like Dorrance Armstrong, who's not playing impactfully, he's not doing anything out of the ordinary. He's kind of just been there, and he hasn't really been a difference maker of any sort. So I don't see why that would prevent you from getting a rookie 5th round pick on the field to get him that valuable experience that he needs moving forward.
Well, let's also go here. I know I didn't mention this to you, but I'm sure you've done a little bit of work, or at least I assume you do. You have. Takk McKinley just got cut by the Falcons. He's a guy the Cowboys had a lot of interest in. Does he fit this kind of scheme?
Yeah, he can fit it. He has played in 2 and 3 point throughout his career and back in college. He's a really powerful guy. He's explosive, but he plays really linearly. He struggles to change direction. He's not someone who's going to corner really well off the edge. He's kind of a power rusher, strength, explosiveness, penetrate his gap type of guy. So I could see him as a fit on like 2nd and 3rd downs, but as far as a base down, he's always kind of struggled in the run department. And as far as getting off blocks, he's kind of a hit or miss guy in terms of that against the run. Either he's penetrating or he's getting blown up, really. And just because of the fact that you said last time, like we were just talking about Bradley and I mean, I don't want to bring in someone who's going to be in between Nye and playing time. So I kind of just want to see what the Cowboys have at the defensive end position.
What do you think about Randy Gregory in the couple of games we've seen him? He seemed to be active, made some plays on Sunday against the Steelers.
Oh, yeah. I think against the Pittsburgh Steelers, it was by far his best game. You saw him starting to piece together his pass rush ability a lot better. He was really combining moves. He was setting up moves. He was using his speed to set up inside counters. He was playing with power. He was doing all of the things that you hope that he would do coming off that layoff. There's still a couple of things missing. His hand technique is still kind of, the timing's not there. The placement isn't quite there, which is to be expected given his layoff. But I mean, just the physical traits, that inside counter that he hit on Alejandro Villanueva to get that hit on Ben Roethlisberger was incredibly impressive. How it was all set up by his get off. He transitioned from an outside rush into an inside rush extremely quickly, stayed balanced, was able to keep his toes pointed toward the quarterback the entire time and really explode through and get a massive hit on Ben Roethlisberger. There would have been a sack if the Cowboys coverage could have held up a little bit longer. So it was just really impressive to see. He's still, against the run, he's still very hit or miss. He's kind of getting blown up a little bit on occasion when he doesn't get off blocks. But he's also shown the ability, as we saw on, I think it was the 4th and 1, when if you leave him unblocked as that backside zone defender and he's a chase defender, he can be really effective with that athleticism that he has to chase from behind. So I'm really intrigued. I love what I'm seeing from him coming off the layoff, and I'm really I'm especially excited about what this means for him moving forward in 2021 and beyond.
Before we move on to some of the offensive guys, Trayvon Diggs out for 4 to 6 weeks with a broken foot. What were your thoughts on what he was doing? And then Savion Smith, I think, is his replacement. Maybe we won't see very much of him.
Yeah, I thought Trayvon Diggs continues to play well. He's hitting more than he's missing, whereas at the beginning of the season he was missing more than he's hitting. You're seeing him doing a much better job of staying on top of routes and playing routes top down, so he's doing a better job of limiting those deep passes. We saw that on the pass where him and Donovan Wilson both dove for the interception and both deflected the other away from being able to get it. But that was just a great example of Diggs staying on top of routes to prevent those vertical concepts that really that he struggled on to begin the season. And as far as Savion said, he struggled. I mean, as soon as the Steelers found out that he was on the field, they really attacked him. He didn't really have much to combat against the Steelers receivers. I don't think he's really anything special or someone who's even going to be on the team moving forward. I just think because of the injury situation, you're kind of forced into playing him at the moment.
So another thing I thought was interesting, Jean, is the idea that Ben DiNucci was horrible, and then Garrett Gilbert comes in and looked good enough to the point where you kind of wonder, maybe you should just let this guy roll with it and see if you've got a viable backup next season. In your article that you put out yesterday, you're making the case for Garrett Gilbert to start, even with the healthy Andy Dalton. Why do you say that?
I think it's a great opportunity to see if you can have a legitimate viable backup, like you said, who's going to be a lot cheaper than Andy Dalton. I mean, Andy Dalton, because of his resume, because of what he's done in the past, he's going to command a decent amount of money as a backup quarterback. And the fact that you can find someone like Garrett Gilbert who can play kind of similarly to Dalton, I mean, just based off both of their first performances, they performed similarly. And if he can continue that and you can move forward next year feeling good about having a guy like Garrett Gilbert as your backup quarterback instead of a more expensive player like Andy Dalton, that's going to especially help the Cowboys, who are going to be tied against the cap next year.
To me, this is what happens when you lie to yourself. You know, they play in an awful division, so they lie to themselves about, there's still a shot to make the playoffs. And that's why you make these moves. This should all be about player development and, draft picks right now. And player development.
Totally agree.
Says, let's see what the young guy can do. Then again, maybe they're like, we like Gilbert, so Terrence Steele is going to start at right tackle again this week, so maybe we'll just put Dalton in there and let him take that beating. To me, Terrence Steele, I guess has he gotten appreciably better from the early part of the year?
No, I don't think he really has. I think he's kind of been the same guy who's hit or miss against the pass protection, and then he's basically an unmitigated disaster as a run blocker. He's really, really, I think he's like, the thing is, we talk most about him in pass protection, how he's kind of leaky in pass protection, but as a run blocker, he is borderline awful at times. He can't execute the backside reach block at all. He struggles to overtake on double teams. He can't climb to the second level. I mean, Zach Martin had a gorgeous reach block on outside zone against the Steelers, a gorgeous reach block against Stephon Tuitt, who's one of the best defensive tackles in the league. He was shaded outside Martin. Martin did a fantastic job of crossing his face, reaching and cutting him off. Steele climbs to the second level, has no one else who he's responsible for besides the linebacker, barely lands a finger on him, and it just ruins the play. I think it ended up being a 2-yard loss when it should have been a 30-yard game because of the other blocks that the Cowboys had going. He's just a disaster as a run blocker, and I'm really hoping that when Brandon Knight returns from his IR stint that they would insert him at right tackle over Steele, and then you can actually get some decent overall offensive line play.
Well, that'd be nice. But I don't know if we're going to see that. All in all, for a 2-7 team, do you think what you saw against Pittsburgh, and I kind of wonder this, was it about the play of the Cowboys, or was it also about the play of the Steelers coming in and maybe overlooking a team that they figured on film will just smoke these guys? Because like we've been talking about, it was weird all of a sudden to see the Cowboys play a little bit better, and I wonder how much the Steelers play into that.
I think it's both, like anything. I think the Steelers are so much more talented and healthy than the Cowboys at this point. If they both play at their best, the Steelers are gonna boat race the Cowboys. I think especially where you see it as the front seven. I think Pittsburgh's front seven wasn't as imposing, especially early on in the game, as they had been in the past. And I think they kind of took the day off early. You didn't see guys like Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt. They weren't the dominant forces that they have been against some of the best offensive lines in football. I mean, you see what the Steelers' interior offensive line does against a team like the Indianapolis Colts with a guy like Quentin Nelson on the interior offensive line, how they dominate those guys. You expect them to do the same against, Connor Williams, Joe Looney and company, but they really didn't for much of the game. So I think that if you play the Steelers 10 times, I would say like probably 5 to 6 of them are going to be pretty big blowouts if the Steelers play up to their ability.
Well, John Owning, we always appreciate it. Thanks for jumping on with us again here today.
Thanks, bro.
Hey, thank you guys.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. As we continue here with you on the Jam Session podcast, of course, time to mention one of our sponsors again. I know a lot of you love these guys. You've supported them as they support us, and we all appreciate that. And that, of course, is Beer Geek Shop in downtown Rockwall. Check them out. It's a local husband and wife that own it, locally family owned. Jason and Deidre, they will take care of you. A lot of the beers that we try on the show, of course, they are big sponsors of Just the Sip. They're the reason why Just the Sip happens, is all the beers that we try on Just the Sip are available for you at Beer Geeks shop in downtown Rockwall. Really easy to get to, right over the lake out there in Rockwall, downtown on the square. Small little shop, but man, they got a ton of beer. Over 400 beers from across the world. And perhaps the greatest thing about it, they're all available in singles, as we tell you every time. Whatever you're looking for, from a stout to a sour, an IPA, maybe a barrel-aged beer, whatever it is that is on your mind, Beer Geek Shop in downtown Rockwall will take care of you. So swing by, tell them you heard about it on the podcast, let them know that Jam Session sent you, and they will get you taken care of. They take care of me and Jacques all the time. I mean, Jacques tells you guys, he'll go up to Deidre and be like, hey, I need 6 new coffee stouts. And she just puts them together, hands you the 6-pack because you can mix and match however you want. And you always enjoy what she's able to do for you.
Yes, sir. That is the truth.
Indeed. So find them, enjoy them, support them. Beer Geek Shop in downtown Rockwall. But we used to do this on the show. I don't know if we've done one yet on the podcast, so this will be fun. But when we were on the radio, we used to do a segment called Between the Mics, where we would bring kind of our off-air stories on air to you. The good news is, here in this format, we can bring those stories, and we probably don't have to clean them up nearly as much as we had to for the radio at times. Now, this one doesn't really follow that, but you have been fascinated, and I think this is an interesting opportunity to talk about it. Now, earlier here, of course, we talked about the passing of the creator of Scooby-Doo. And I know a big death that a lot of people wanted to kind of air hug as he passed on to the next plane, and that is the great Alex Trebek, the host, the only host there's ever been for Jeopardy, who passed away from pancreatic cancer just a couple of days ago. And of course, that's one, man, like whenever I heard that he had pancreatic cancer, because my grandmother passed away from pancreatic cancer, and that was one of those things that when you find out you've got it, the fact that he lived another year.
That's pretty impressive now. I
mean, my grandmother, I think it was like 4 or 5 months after that, after we found out she had it. You know, Patrick Swayze died of it. And that was like 4 to 6 months where it's one of those that, unfortunately, one of those cancers, when you get it, not many people are able to come back from that one. But Alex Trebek, man.
Typically, that's because it's one of those insidious cancers that by the time you have symptoms, it's in stage 4.
Yeah, and he was just an icon. I mean, 36 years he hosted Jeopardy from when they revived it. From 1984 until, of course, I mean, he hosted like the last episodes that you've seen until he died, 80 years old, just 2 days ago on November 8th for Alex Trebek.
I think the thing about Alex Trebek is that the dude that you saw on Jeopardy is actually kind of like who he was. Like sometimes you have talk show hosts, they appear one way because you have to be charming and friendly and all that stuff. To get the job, but then you read about him later, and you're like, "Oh my God, you were talking bad and cussing people out behind the scenes, or you were not, you just weren't who you purported to be."
Right.
But by all accounts, and by everybody who seems to have come in contact with him when he was alive and now that he's died, they're all nothing but glowing words about what a great guy he was.
Yeah, and this will be interesting to see. It's a trivia show.
You want that job?
Man, to be the guy that follows that guy.
That's what I'm saying. Do you want that job?
I mean, the absolute GOAT, not just of Jeopardy, but it might be the absolute GOAT of game show hosting of all time.
Yeah. Man, we could do a ranking on that. Although I got to tell you, man, and I used to be kind of a quasi game show guy. I'm not really anymore. But I'd say Drew Carey's done a great job of replacing Bob Barker on The Price is Right. Yeah,
he's done good. I keep wondering about Pat Sajak. I'm almost convinced that he and Vanna White are just animatronics at this point. From Wheel of Fortune.
They could be.
I used to love the dude, Chuck Woolery. I used to love that dude on Love Connection. He'd be like,
2 and 2, baby.
2 and 2, back at you. And he had that great smooth voice.
And that long chin.
Yeah, he did, man. He was good. And there have been some really good ones. Wasn't Wink Martindale one for a long time? Yeah. He was really good on some of those old school game shows. But Alex Trebek, I mean, he was the guy, when I say Alex Trebek, you know Jeopardy. And when you say Jeopardy, you know Alex Trebek. And there's very few, I think, game show hosts who are so synonymous with the game show as he was with Jeopardy.
Which led me to my question is, like, when did your obsession with trivia start?
You know, that's really interesting. And I think it probably started with Jeopardy.
Really?
Honestly. Yeah, because I haven't watched Jeopardy in a while, but I used to love watching Jeopardy. I used to love challenging the knowledge that I had or had acquired just randomly. And one of the things that I've always loved about trivia, and this is something for those of you that are listening to this, mostly a lot of you guys will be listening to this on Wednesday, November 11th. Well, every Thursday night, my lady friend and a couple of us, we have formed a team now. And we always play trivia almost every Thursday night. We either go to Celestial Beer Works in the Medical District or Three Nations up in downtown Carrollton. We're at one of those places to play trivia. And we've got a really good team. It's me, my lady, one of my best friends, Juan, and then a guy that we met at trivia who we've become friends with, who is an older gentleman, a retired American Airlines pilot. And his name is Mike. And we always meet up with him. So we have this team that can cover a variety of generations and a variety of knowledge. And we are very competitive at these local trivias.
I was going to say that makes you a well-rounded team. You got offense, defense, and special teams.
Yeah. One of the things, I used to think, and I don't know, this is so silly, but welcome to my brain. I used to think that tests in school were stupid because it was basically like, oh, okay, so you just want to study this. I was like, why don't you just give us a random knowledge test and see what we remember from the things that we've lived out and learned over the course of whatever. And so trivia is that. Trivia is like a test that you show up to, and they ask you all these random ass questions, and it's just a way of, what do you remember? What can you think of about this? And I have my strong points. Obviously, sports being one of those. Movies, I'm very good at that. TV shows, generally speaking. And then it kind of delves into some other things. History, I usually am pretty good at. Sometimes they'll do theme trivia. Like on this upcoming Thursday, we're going to be at Three Nations, and they're hosting Hamilton trivia, which obviously will be based on the musical. But I would imagine some of the true historical things that the musical doesn't cover about Alexander Hamilton. Now, my buddy Juan is a Hamilton musical aficionado. Yes, he can probably quote the whole movie to you or the whole show. And so what we did is when we found out, okay, we're going to go to that. Juan knows all the stuff about the musical. So the rest of us need to do a little research on things about Hamilton that aren't in the musical.
Okay, how do you go about this research? You just read Wikipedia?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you can read some Wikipedia. You can read, some articles or some books or whatnot. Maybe you can find a couple of excerpts about Hamilton trivia, not the musical, things like that you can Google to try to figure out, what do you know and study up on a little bit, which I think is fun. But, the general knowledge ones are my favorite. I'm not a huge fan of the theme trivia unless it's something like this that Juan's really into, or something like if they do a sports theme, or we did Star Wars trivia a couple of weeks ago. But I find it interesting because sometimes you can figure out, like we did a Law and Order trivia at Three Nations like a month ago. I haven't watched Law and Order in 20 years, but we were like, all right, let's go. And so we get up there and we actually won one of the rounds because of our deductive reasoning.
Well, how did that go?
Well, it'd be like one of these things where like, okay, so the actress that played this character won an Oscar in 1967 for this film. I'm like, oh yeah, I know who won the Oscar in 67. It was for this movie, Sound of Music, or whatever it is, right? And so it was things like that, or you could sit here and say, okay, this question that they're asking, the answer would be in this time period. So in this time period, think of this, and then guys will start thinking like, okay, so if we whittle it down, it's probably one of these three things that would make sense. I don't know if these are the right answers, but this is reasonably a good guess. And then you put that down, and one time we got it, nailed it. I'm really good at doing that.
All right, now how many teams are playing trivia?
At Three Nations, because they have a huge space, and so at Three Nations, sometimes there'll be 20 to 25 teams playing.
Oh, wow. How many people on the team?
The max they'll allow you to have is 6.
You shout out the answer? Or
No. They give you an answer sheet, and they ask the questions. You write down the answers, and then you turn it in at the end of the round, and they grade it.
This is all very, very fascinating to me.
Yeah, it takes a couple of hours, and, it's fun. We enjoy it. I will say, if some of you are listening, you've been to Three Nations Trivia, I hope you're not the cheaters, because I'll call them out. Like, I have no problem.
What do you mean the cheaters?
Oh, there are people that cheat. There are people that get on their phone and look up the answers, which I've never understood. And they haven't gotten on to me, but I think I've annoyed them before because, like, in the middle of the brewery, I'll just call somebody out, like, put your phone down, stop cheating. Because what's the point? If you're going to pull out your phone and get on it and look up answers, why play trivia? What's the point of being there? No, I've done that before. I remember
I believe you.
I remember this is 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were playing up there, and there were so many people playing that some were sitting outside. So the hosts couldn't see them, and they would send somebody in to get the question. He would run out, and then they would literally get on their phone. I would see them read their phone and then write something down. And they won the first round. I think they got a perfect score. They missed one, probably on purpose. And so when they went up there, I was like, y'all are cheating. And they just looked at me. I said, stop cheating. It's not fun. And they just stared at me. Guess what? They didn't cheat the next 2 rounds and got smoked.
Dude. I wish I could be there.
I have no problem with that, man. I called out, for a while they were doing it in online only, but they were still giving away prizes. And when you're doing it online only, so many people were turning in perfect scores that they stopped giving out prizes and just picked random winners because so many people were getting on and cheating, just Googling the answers. I was like, what are you doing? And so I'd be in the chat and I'd be like, you guys are cheating. Like, what's the point? And I called them out so much that they finally switched their policy. It's pissing me off.
I don't get it, man.
And I remember one of them was a sports question that was really tough, but I knew the answer. And I thought, man, I guarantee you, unless you really know a lot about sport, I can't remember what it was. It was something random. I said, if you know that, you'll know this. And I asked it in the chat, and the person, because it was only me and one other person that got it right. I said, I guarantee you you're cheating. If you know that, you'll know this next question. And they were like, well, I don't know that answer. It's like, that's what I figured, because you Googled the other thing, because otherwise, if you know that answer, this one's immediate.
Dang, look at you.
Hey, man.
Yeah, I'm Budsman.
I'm not here. Again, I like playing trivia. It's like if you're going to play Jeopardy, you think they're going to allow you to use your phone to Google the answer? No, you either know the answer or you don't. And it's okay if you don't. I don't know why it's fun for people to show up at a trivia and cheat. Pisses me off, man. As you can probably tell.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
I know. Funny. It is what it is. But yeah, I really enjoy trivia, and we play every week, and our team's pretty good. We did really well. Last week we played at Celestial because they were doing general trivia, and we won. We finished in first place. We had finished in third the 2 times before that over there. Three Nations, there's more people that show up, so it's more difficult, obviously. And it just depends. It's hit and miss. I think we'll do really well for Hamilton trivia just because Juan is a Hamilton guru. I mean, the dude can probably sing the whole show, so I'd be surprised if we miss something about the musical. And then it'll be interesting to see what types of other questions they ask. But as I mentioned, I'm a big general trivia fan, and that's why I liked Jeopardy so much. I used to have that game on one of the game systems. It might have been PlayStation or one of the Nintendos, I think, that you could get Jeopardy on. And I used to play it all the time on there. I highly enjoyed it. We shall see. I'll be curious to see who they choose to replace Alex Trebek, because that's going to be big shoes. Apparently, he had said the guy who is the arena announcer for the Los Angeles Kings.
Really? That seems rather random.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know how he knew him, but they were friends or something. His name is Alex Faust, and he's their hockey announcer. He's 31 years old. And back in 2018, Alex Trebek said they should consider him. And he mentioned his name, Faust. Trebek mentioned him to the producers of the show as a guy to look at whenever his time was done. So we shall see. I've seen some other things that are suggesting Ken Jennings, who, of course, is the winningest Jeopardy contestant of all time. He's 46 years old. Maybe that'd be a guy that, you could have groomed. He's written books about trivia, one of the most famous contestants of all time. Maybe he'd be a good replacement.
Well, you got to have that personality, though.
Yeah, you do.
I think it's more about your personality than the other stuff. They can teach you the other stuff.
That's very true.
But if you don't have that right, whatever that personality is, because, I think part of what made Trebek so good was the folksiness at times, the dignity, the pronunciations when it was a foreign word, all the little subtleties set him apart. So.
Yeah, indeed they did, and he will be very much missed. Alex Trebek, 80 years old, man, one of the greats of all time, if not the greatest ever in the world of game shows. So we move on from the greatness of Alex Trebek to the greatness of the wings at Kroger. I'm telling you, man. See, you chuckle, but you know it's true. Those wings are damn good. They are. You ate some. You put them in the air fryer.
Right. I'm more of the blue cheese guy, but hey.
Yeah, they have two flavors, the buffalo blue cheese and the mango habanero. Jacques likes the buffalo blue cheese. I'm the mango habanero guy. I love them. I've gotten to the point now where I have to have them, like, not every week. I'm not going to say I buy them every week, but every time we go to the store, which is probably every other week, I pick them up and grill them because they're so damn good. They're not breaded like pretty much all the other wings are. It's meat, it's flavor. And they're good. Available at pretty much all North Texas Kroger stores. Now, not all stores have both flavors. Some will only have one flavor. So check out your local Kroger to figure out that. You get them at the meat counter. Go back to the back, walk up to the dude, tell him, hey, I want a couple of pounds of whatever it is, mango habanero, buffalo blue cheese. They'll wrap them up and they'll get them ready to go. And you can air fry them or grill them, however you like yours. Maybe you can do that this weekend, those wings at all North Texas Kroger locations. But it is going to be a fun weekend. You know, it's unfortunate because this is an interesting weekend in the sports world because the Masters is this weekend, which is, for those who like major golf, in November, usually played in April, but they bumped it back to November this weekend. But there is also some interesting collegiate football matchups this weekend. And unfortunately, originally when the schedule came out, you had to look at this and you're thinking, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. You're going to have daytime coverage of the Masters, and that's going to lead you in to CBS evening coverage of Alabama at night at Tiger Stadium against LSU. And of course, what we found out is LSU is pure trash. And I mean, they don't have a prayer of beating out. They may lose by 5 touchdowns to Alabama this year.
I was going to say, man, typically this would be a game where we would be, changing and rearranging plans and I got to free this time up so I can watch the game. And now it's more like, dude, how much you think they're going to beat them by? Because they are atrocious this year. And so it's not the same thing. It's probably a first quarter watch just to make sure nothing interesting happens, and then wait for Alabama to suffocate them and beat them.
Yeah, Alabama will smoke them. Alabama is going to throttle everybody left on their schedule. It's going to come down to, can they do enough? Are they better than Florida? I think they are in the SEC championship game. I'd be really surprised if Alabama doesn't run the table. They're the number one team in the country again. And they're the number one team in the country because of what happened over the weekend with the Clemson loss to Notre Dame, which really throws things into an interesting realm. That was a phenomenal game, by the way. I hope that some of you guys out there were able to watch that. Clemson on the road at Notre Dame went right down to the end, and Notre Dame pulls it out and kind of sent a statement that maybe, just maybe, Notre Dame can compete with the big boys. Now, of course, Clemson didn't have Trevor Lawrence, and you wonder if he had played, would that have made a difference? I don't know. He didn't, and Clemson loses.
Yeah, I was in East Texas this weekend, so I was able to watch it for the most part. I think we talked about it last week, man. It was kind of a no-lose situation for Clemson because if you lose, people say, hey, Trevor Lawrence wasn't there. And if you win, oh, my God, you beat Notre Dame without Trevor Lawrence, then Notre Dame's not any good. But here's what I took from it, bro. Trevor Lawrence not being there ain't got nothing to do with giving up 40 points.
Yeah.
It ain't got nothing to do with that. And they had a hard time stopping Boston College for a while, a couple weeks earlier. And so this Clemson defense can be had. Now, when Trevor Lawrence is back, I'm just asking, how much better is their offense going to be? Because, how do you say DJ's last name? Ulawin Lilele. That's my best guess right now since I don't have a pronunciation chart in front of me.
Fair enough.
He's the 5-star guy, and he's the real deal, bro. Like, he was a 5-star from California, and he looks every bit of a 5-star. And so, I think you got pretty much the Clemson performance. They just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it wasn't good enough, and that was surprising. And so now, by winning that game, Notre Dame jumps up to the number 2 team in the country. And this is going to get really interesting here because for the Irish, they should win out. They should win out. Now, will they? I don't know, but they will be heavily favored against all the teams they have remaining on their schedule. They have Boston College, North Carolina, Syracuse, and Wake Forest there to wrap up. Keep in mind, Notre Dame is playing in the ACC this year. They are eligible to win the ACC Conference Championship, which I guess technically is redundant, but the ACC title, they're able to win that. Syracuse is horrible. North Carolina might be interesting. They're just outside of the rankings as a 5-2 team, but outside of that, they'd be expected to win out. What is going to get interesting is Clemson should also win out. This year, in the Atlantic Coast Conference, they have done away with divisions, which means the top 2 teams in the conference will play each other in the ACC title game. That should be Notre Dame and Clemson. What gets interesting here for me, I almost got in a fight about this on Saturday night.
Did you?
Yeah, because some Aggie guy couldn't let it go. So we're sitting at a brewery on Saturday night, and we're watching this game, and as soon as it's over, I go, oh, man, that's going to hurt A&M's chances. And this dude decked out in Aggie gear just starts talking shit to me. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I was like, do you not know how this works? He goes, right, you don't know anything. I was like, look at metrics, guy. And then it became F this and all that. And they had to come over. And I was like, look, it's not my problem. That guy started it. What do you want from me?
Jeez.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But look, if you are an Aggie fan, this is reality for you. And we saw it play out in the standings. Now, we'll see what the playoff selection committee does. But Aggie moved up to 5 in the country. Notre Dame and Clemson, this is where it gets interesting. Alabama's going to win out there in the playoff. I think Ohio State wins out there in the playoff. Notre Dame and Clemson. Since Notre Dame beat Clemson, it could come down to the ACC title game. Now, if Notre Dame beats them again, you got a shot. If Clemson beats Notre Dame and they both finish with 1 loss, I think they're both getting into the playoff this year.
I told you when we talked about it before, I said it seems to me that this is getting set up, the ACC, to get the 2 teams this year, because nobody in the Big Ten is any good.
Right.
And if Ohio State loses to one of those trash teams in the Big Ten, be it whomever, they're not going to get in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to be like, you lost to, there's no good team to lose to this year. Some years you can say, well, we lost to this team. Hey, they're great. That's not the case. The Big 12, no. Nobody believes in the Pac-12. And the SEC, I don't know. I don't think there's, I think A&M is trying to make a case.
Right.
But I don't think, they've been so irrelevant for so long, it's hard for them to make a case.
Well, there's that, and it's also this, and I kid you not, and I tried to explain this to that guy, and he just wanted to yell and scream at me. But the reality of it is this, and this is true. Now, is it going to change this year? Maybe. But what we have seen in the past, and it is in the playoff selection committees, like if you go and read what they weight, it's in their statement, or however you want to put that. And that is that when teams are considered even, the weight of a conference championship or playing in a conference title game can break a tie. So let's just say that Clemson, Notre Dame, and A&M all finished with 1 loss. Well, why did Notre Dame lose? Because they played in their conference title game. And they may even look at it and go, plus there were no divisions. Otherwise, they might not have had to play Clemson twice. I'm just telling you what the committee does, right? So then you look at A&M, who's not going to win their own division, who's not going to play in the SEC title game. Now, even if they finish with 1 loss, you could look at that and say, okay, let's just say that Clemson, because if Clemson loses again, if you're an Aggie, you need to be rooting hardcore for Notre Dame to win out and beat Clemson again.
Yes, sir.
But if Clemson beats Notre Dame in the title game with the healthy Trevor Lawrence, they're in. Ohio State and Bama are in, assuming they win out. And so then Texas A&M steps up against Notre Dame, and it looks like this. They say, well, Notre Dame got an extra game, had to play Clemson twice, and they lost to what was at the time the number 1 team in the country, or I guess maybe it'd be number 4 team, number 3 team, whatever it is. They lost to the Clemson Tigers. A&M, unfortunately for them, not only lost to Alabama, but got absolutely smoked by Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, it does help that they beat Florida and that Florida just beat Georgia. But if you are an Aggie fan and you're listening to this, you need to be rooting hardcore that Auburn continues to win, because they have gotten back into the rankings right now, because right now A&M has 1 win over a ranked team. Florida.
I think this is one of those deals where it also, like, when you haven't been relevant, you need as many ranked wins as you've got, because the state of the Big Ten is trash, man. I don't think Ohio State's going to play a ranked team. Well, I guess they got Indiana coming up, but Indiana would be one of those teams that nobody cares if they're ranked. They still look at them like Indiana. So, maybe if they play somebody in the Big Ten championship, and that's why that's why they have no margin for error.
Yeah, and it's so funny.
Have a bad game.
When you look at this, like for A&M, and this is another unfortunate happenstance. I mean, it was supposed to be a season in which Tennessee and LSU were not going to be this bad. They suck. Winning them does nothing for you. Everybody expects that A&M is going to maul both those teams as the season progresses. The thing about Auburn is they play the Iron Bowl. Keep in mind, because of the way the season lays out, that's usually the last game. They play the Iron Bowl against Alabama the week before A&M plays them. So if Alabama goes out and just mauls Auburn, and then A&M doesn't do the same, I guess they're not on that level. So that's another thing that hinders A&M. And look, I'm sorry. Guy, if you're listening to the podcast, I'm sorry you got so pissed off. I was just trying to explain all this to you. You didn't want to hear it. I don't know. I mean, they come over there.
Explain some things to some people, man.
They come over there and go, Matt, we're going to have to ask you to leave if you can't calm down. I was like, Me? I was like, I'm literally telling this guy factual information, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. Now, it was laced perhaps with some profanities, but I will say this, and I had multiple people back me up. I never cussed until he started cussing at me. And then I was like, okay, so we're going here. Let's bring it. And that's a true story. So elsewhere in the world of college football, at the top, I had to tell that story. It's been irking me all week.
Okay, that's what the podcast is for.
I mean, that crazy asshole. No, I'm kidding. He's probably a nice guy. So
I doubt it.
You never know. You never know when people have been drinking. And I told the guy, like, I went over and talked to him afterwards. He's like, hey, man, sorry it got so out of control. He's like, yeah, me too. And I was like, look, that's what I love about college football. I love your passion. I was like, you guys have had a good season. I look at it realistically. You know what I mean? He goes, well, I think you're wrong. I was like, okay, well, I'm not. So, if what are you going to do? But we shook hands in the end and everything was good. Outside of that, it's going to be interesting. I don't know. I was trying to see because Alabama LSU was supposed to be the premier matchup this week. And I was going to say, I don't think that there's a matchup between ranked teams this week. And I was just scrolling through. Yeah, there's not.
No, I would say now it's all about interesting games.
Yeah.
And what you deem interesting. Like, I think my boys got Maryland, which typically is not an interesting game. But they played one of the most exciting games of the year, I think, last year when they barely beat Maryland. And now that Tua's brother has been balling for the last 2 weeks, it becomes an interesting game to see, okay, is he really doing all of that? Or, was the competition so down that, it is what it is? But he put up big numbers against Penn State last week and helped them beat Penn State. And so it's just an interesting game to see what does Tua's brother do.
Yeah, you have that. And then, honestly, the Notre Dame game at Boston College. Boston College isn't horrible.
No, they got Jeff Hafley, who was Ohio State's defensive coordinator, as their head coach, and he's made a culture change because they're a lot more competitive and a lot better than they've been.
Yeah, and that's one of those games when you look at it, Notre Dame cannot afford to have the letdown. Yeah, you beat Clemson. You got the big win, but now you got to go on the road, and you cannot have that letdown if you're trying to get back into the playoffs so you can get smoked by Alabama again, like it's 2012 or whatever it was. But it's a weird college football season. I think that we're all aware of that. I think BYU might actually have a shot. We talk about Cincinnati, but BYU, who absolutely throttled Boise State, who was ranked at the time when they played last week. And I know maybe it's fair, maybe it's not fair, but when BYU, who's undefeated and is going to finish undefeated, beats a team on the road 51-17, and again, I'm telling you, and you can say, oh, they don't care. All things considered, the playoff selection committee is a lot like us. BYU has Zach Wilson, who's going to be a top 10 pick. And when they think that there's a guy like that can beat some of these other teams, they may not shy away from putting them into the playoff because they've got a quarterback they believe can play at that level.
Yep. I'm telling you, man, this is a weird year with no rules.
Right.
Because COVID has affected so much that if they're ever going to be bold and do something out of the norm, it'll be this year, which is why your boy keeps banging the drum for Cincinnati.
Yeah, and Cincinnati is still ranked ahead. But again, we haven't seen what the playoff selection committee is going to say because we're still waiting on their first rankings. And Cincinnati is the number 7 team in the country right now. BYU, I think, is number 9, if I recall correctly. We've talked about this before. Cincinnati beat a ranked Army team. They throttled a ranked SMU team on the road, and SMU has looked good ever since then. And it's going to be interesting because BYU plays 10 games. They're going to be 10-0. Cincinnati has 4 more games remaining. They should be 10-0. And if there was ever a chance for a group of 5, I still don't think it happens. I think it would cause, because right now, if Clemson loses again to Notre Dame, I think you still need A&M to lose somewhere along the way, because I do think that the door, it's still cracked for a one-loss team like A&M to get in, even without playing in their conference title game over a Cincinnati or a BYU. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. It's, those teams are just trying to make you make a tough decision. That's the best that they can do.
But college football, man, what a wild ride it always is. And we don't ever see it coming. We don't see Notre Dame, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State losing somewhere along the way. But we haven't played November yet.
It wouldn't shock me if somebody loses, man, because it's college football. And here's the other thing. It's COVID season, baby.
Yep.
All it takes is COVID to come terrorize your program, and you can lose real quick.
Oh, no doubt. There is always some random-ass way of happening. And, of course, watch what's going to happen, and everybody will get screwed. Florida beats Alabama in the SEC title game. They both get in. We'll see. So we transition from college football back into the Dallas Cowboys. And Stephen Jones, yes. Stephen Jones spoke with the media yesterday, had some interesting things to say on quite a lengthy conference call. Some of it was good. Some of it was obvious GM, owner, VP type speak.
Selling hope.
Selling hope and at times avoiding questions. But what do you expect? But he did have some interesting things to say. So we're going to play some of Stephen Jones in his own words and share our thoughts. But he did notice, I don't know how much I buy into it, but Stephen Jones certainly believes that this defense is getting better.
Our defense is coming around. I think we're playing better every week. That's 2 weeks in a row we've put together good performances on the defensive side of the ball, which obviously has been our Achilles heel. We're still, turning the ball over more than we need to. But, the East is what it is, and we've just got to continue to get better each week and go out there and go to work. I think, obviously defensively, I think we're really starting to get a feel. The staff's meshing with the players in terms of what the expectations are. I think our locker room's really coming together and holding each other accountable. And, I fully expect us to get better each week.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
That's what I thought.
Some of this is the skinniest fat guy thing, man.
Pretty much.
If you're giving up 36.5 points and 488 yards, okay, it's hard to be any worse than that. Now, I get it when he talks about, playing better against Philadelphia. But let's be honest, man. Philadelphia and Carson Wentz are trash this year. Oh, Taylor, you're so negative. You're so negative, Taylor. Okay, well, let's look at Pittsburgh. They played well against Pittsburgh's run offense and James Conner. Can I tell you something, Matt? Let me just try to be honest with you, man.
Yes.
I'm just gonna be honest with you. Let me ask you a question. I want you to answer this. This is not a rhetorical question. Do you think Pittsburgh tried to run the football?
It didn't feel that way, no.
No, I'm being serious, man.
No, I'm serious, too. I think maybe a couple of times, but it felt like they understood the pass was working really well for them, and they didn't really put a lot of effort into trying to create a run game.
No, their game plan was to spread them out because they looked at the secondary and said, if we spread them out, they can only go so deep before we get mismatches. And so they didn't try to run. So, yes, you get credit for shutting down their running game, even though they didn't really try. But Ben Roethlisberger still threw for 306 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. They gave up a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, we could talk about, the defense is better. I mean, do you feel good about it? Because I don't.
No, and I don't feel. Look, okay, cool. Cheeto's coming back this week, but you lose Trayvon Diggs.
Right, so you basically where you were, which anything where the young fella Savion Smith is not on the field is a positive.
Right, yes, that would help tremendously.
But I'm just going to tell y'all this. I feel like Matt in his story all week. The Cowboys sell hope, baby. That's what they do. They sell hope.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Hope puts butts in seats. They selling hope. But we talking about a team that's 5-11 in their last 16 games and has lost 15 of their last 22 games. So I am putting that hope back on the shelf. I ain't buying it.
Fair enough. So you can ask Steven if he believes that about the defense, then what is it about this defense that you feel so good about that has impressed you lately?
I think our defensive front is, the front seven's probably has been the most impressive. Just certainly being able to, be competitive against the run. I mean, we all know that was our Achilles heel for the first 7 games. We weren't doing a good job stopping the run, and if you can't stop the run, then, you're going to have a long day. So the fact that we've been able to, improve there and then make some plays on the ball and be around the ball is important too. So all those things are important as we move forward.
Sound like more hope selling to me, man. Did they get some turnovers this week?
No, I don't recall that they did. We can ignore Pittsburgh and go back like he is in his mind to the Philly game when they got 4 turnovers. Sure, but you're talking about
that was good. That was good.
Yeah, and that was good. A quarterback that you knew was going to turn it over, you were able to take the ball away. That's great. But I do think that what we saw that was, if you're going to look at a single game sample and say, what did you like the best about the defense on Sunday? I would agree with them there because I thought Neville Gallimore, and we talked about that with John Owning earlier, Neville Gallimore flashed and showed that maybe there's some potential there to develop somebody in the middle. And Randy Gregory, who we've talked about before, I don't know how much you invest in that guy. How much are you waiting for him to burn you again versus hoping, is this the time we can keep you going?
How many times he gonna break your heart, man?
Right. And we talked about that with Nate right after the game on the podcast we dropped earlier this week. You can't trust the guy. If you could trust the guy, you may look at him and say, man, as we have before, there's something there. That dude can do something really well. But how long is he going to be able to do it for you?
No, he got a lot of talent, man. When you've been in that bad abusive relationship, man,
right,
you're just wary every time you go back.
So again, Stephen Jones, and this is his conference call with the media yesterday. And, I thought this was interesting because he did admit a little bit here that this is, of the last decade or so, is this the most disappointing season he can recall?
Sure. I mean, it's disappointing. It's disappointing with the injuries that we've had. I mean, it's difficult when you lose your starting quarterback and, the other players that we know we've lost for the year. That's disappointing. And then the way we've played, especially the first 7 games, on the defensive side of the ball, were frustrating for everybody, I think, to watch, how we played there. But I do think we're coming around, and, you got to take a deep breath on these things and certainly, keep your confidence.
That was very interesting to me because he talked about, it's very disappointing the way the defense played, especially early on. Steven, as much as I like you, it was equally disappointing from the offense to me. Why are you leading the league in turnovers? Who's doing that, Matt?
Yeah, that's very true.
You don't get no credit for having a bunch of yards and scoring a bunch of points when your 3 or 4 turnovers are the reason why you're down 21 points and you got to throw the ball all the time.
Right.
I mean, I've told you several times this year. This is some team losses. This is a bad season for the team because there's plenty enough to throw around on offense, defense, and special teams. I mean, we knew the defense was going to be shady. We never, ever thought the defense was going to be any good. We just thought that the offense would be good enough to create some of those leads early where it would hide the defensive flaws. But that ain't been the case, bro.
No, it hasn't. But I thought, for a little bit of reality there, because he's right. When the question was, is this the most disappointing season of the last 5-10 years? And he goes, sure. And finally to hear them talk about, look, when you lose your quarterback, it's almost like, what do you expect? Instead of trying to polish him, like, we're doing okay. We're getting better. We're all that. At least he admitted what we all already knew, which was good to hear in his own words. So we go from that to, I think, a question, and I always thought this was crazy. I never thought that there would be any real belief from this organization that Mike McCarthy would not be here next year. I think it's easy for a coach that starts 2-7 that came in with a lot of high hopes that there is a segment of the fan base that wants him already gone. But Stephen Jones is going to address that. Is Mike McCarthy your guy?
Absolutely. Unequivocal. No question. I mean, you're changing a culture. You change when you change the leadership. And certainly we like stability. That's why we stayed with Jason for 10 years. And certainly we know, these things don't happen overnight in terms of when you turn things around, you throw on top of it that we had an unprecedented environment with the virus and not really being able to get your hands on your, Mike and his staff weren't able to, have interactions with the team other than virtual. So there's challenges out there, but there's a lot of other new staffs that have, had the same challenges. But you throw that in there and then you throw the injuries, that we've had to work with. And certainly it's been a big challenge, but we'll continue to go to work every day and improve as a football team.
Yeah, so again, absolutely, unequivocally, Mike McCarthy is going to be their coach next year, and you heard him talk about some of that patience of understanding. And I thought bringing up Garrett was on point there for him. As patient as they were with Jason Garrett, they are going to give Mike McCarthy a chance to do this his way.
They're going to give Mike Nolan the same chance?
I don't know, man. After listening to that right there, I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
Well, no, because if you're that committed to Mike McCarthy, then you got to let Mike McCarthy do what Mike McCarthy wants to do. Otherwise, you can't say I'm committed to you, but you need to fire this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy.
Right.
Well, then you ain't really committed to me because I'm committed to those guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they think that the defense is playing better and that they can use an offseason to add guys who fit the scheme better, I can see how they go down a certain road. I don't necessarily think it's the right road to go down to because I think the Cowboys, like a lot of organizations, they're not alone in this. They spend a lot of time lying to themselves, man.
Yeah.
Or if lying you think is kind of too harsh, they spend way too much time thinking about the best case scenario. You'll hear him talk about Tyron Smith. Oh, he had the surgery. Yeah, he'll be back healthy and strong next year, blah, da, 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 da. Okay, Tyron Smith has missed 3 games each of the last 4 years. He missed 14 games this year.
Right.
I'm just asking the question. Would you really sit up there and be like, oh my God, I'm shocked if Tyron Smith said, my body's tired. I got $100 million in the bank. I can't really play to the exact standard that I've set for a decade. I'm finna take it to the house. Would that shock you? See, that wouldn't shock me. I mean, I don't know that it will happen, but it wouldn't shock me if it did, just like Travis Frederick. What I'm saying is when you live in that world where everything is gumdrops and lollipops, and everything is rose-colored Ray-Bans, everything is pumping sunshine, sometimes, dog, can we just take an honest assessment?
Yeah.
Baby, I love you, but we got problems, and we need to work them out.
Yeah, I think part of it is, and you heard a little bit of it there in his talk about McCarthy, but in this next clip here that I'll play for you, you kind of get a sense, I think, of where the front office's mindset is, where you heard him mention it, and I don't know if it's an excuse, but it's reality about the injuries. You heard him kind of talking about it there with the patience of McCarthy and how things haven't gone their way. And then you hear about it here as well of how they kind of see this season and how everything has gone wrong.
I just think the bigger thing has just been the challenge of, defensively learning a new scheme. Certainly unprecedented, and not to have quarterback schools and mini camps and a full training camp with preseason games. Those are all things that help you. That's why we give teams and new coaches extra weeks in those areas. So the biggest thing I would say is you just wish it could have come along a little faster in terms of getting our hands around what we were trying to do defensively, and certainly we're getting there and feel good about where we're going. We've just got to continue to put games together where we continue to improve.
And that's the third or fourth time in this call where he has pointed out, whether it's injury or in that right there, hey, look, we didn't have any of these camps. We didn't have any of these things. We're trying to learn a new scheme. And when he explained that, to your point about Mike Nolan, not only the patience that he expressed with Mike McCarthy, but if they're going to transition to this new scheme, and I kind of get it out of that, then Mike Nolan's a 3-4 guy. Are you going to go back and try to find somebody else? I think Mike Nolan's going to end up here again next year.
I just said, wouldn't surprise me, man. Wouldn't surprise me at all. And it's the same reason why. Like, you either like the man and you put him in charge and you trust him to handle his business, or you don't.
And then a couple of more clips here for you. One announcing a question, not announcing, but addressing, I should say, a question that many of us have. But he did have, and you and I talked about this, of all the things, and this is what I think, again, when you listen to Steven talk about this, it's almost like everything that has happened this season, they're blaming on COVID and not being able to have a normal preseason, and then all the injuries, because I thought this was interesting here. And finally, and you and I talked about it, and he is worth the praise for the one game, but man, Stephen Jones loves Bones Fossil.
Absolutely. I think we got one of the best special teams coaches in the league. Had a few things that didn't go our way early, but certainly he's putting his stamp on the game. We felt like we were won the special teams battle yesterday in terms of playing against the Steelers, and everybody, you were able to witness and see the plays that we made, and well designed, and I do think we got one of the top special teams coaches in our league.
So there you have it. They were supposed to.
I think it's been more missed than hit this year, but I think it's very clear if you're playing the Cowboys, you better prepare for their special teams, and I think that's a positive. I think they can be even better, man, with some little more consistency. And then the goal of special teams is to make plays and be steady, not to be back and forth, up and down, great plays, poor plays. You want a level of steadiness with some great plays sprinkled in.
Yeah, which would be nice to see. Yes, it worked on Sunday. A great kick return. Of course, the punt return that was really cool with Wilson to Goodwin, and it finally paid off. So we shall see, but everything you gather from a 2-7 team, there doesn't seem, and look, sports is fluid, as you always like to say, but there doesn't seem to be anything that Steven is saying from there that leads you to believe there's going to be drastic changes in the offseason. It almost feels like they're curious to see how things will go with a normal offseason if they're able to get one in where they can have the camps and have the in-person installation and see how that looks, as opposed to just pulling the plug on something that has been different than anybody has ever experienced before.
I feel you on that.
So that leads us to our last clip, and this one, we've addressed this. We've talked about this. A lot of fans discussing this. The Cowboys are on pace right now as it stands for a top 4 pick. Maybe they finish top 2, top 3. There are 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks that are going to be the apple of franchises' eyes, including, of course, Trevor Lawrence. If the Cowboys wind up at that point in the draft, would they consider a quarterback high in the draft this year?
Dak's our quarterback, and we're so fired up about him, and him leading us in the future, and it's like I said, we're focused week to week right now on getting better each week, and certainly we're fired up about our future with that.
So that kind of puts to bed, at least right now, and again, sports is fluid, but he shot that down very quickly because the question was, would you consider a quarterback high in the draft? Would that be something that you guys would look at? And he doesn't even say, well, blah, blah, whatever. He just goes, Dak's our quarterback.
Yeah, I think they believe that, but you're going to have to prove it to me. You done had a year and some change to get a deal done. You ain't got a deal done yet. Now Dak is coming off a dislocated and fractured ankle, which from the Cowboys, I guarantee you they're going to be like, hey, Dak, we don't know how you can play with this injury. We just need to see it, as they trying to come to terms on a long-term deal. And so unless they acquiesce and give Dak what he wants, I don't see it getting done. And they haven't shown an inclination to acquiesce yet. That salary cap going to be about $177 million or something like that. Dude, he's supposed to take up 37.7 of it. Dak's a quarterback for now, but it's, sports is fluid, baby. Let's see what happens if they end up 3-13, had a second pick in the draft.
And there you have it, the thoughts from Stephen Jones over what they have seen so far as they move into their bye week in an obviously disappointing 2-7 season. So we continue here on the Jam Session podcast, and Jacques and I, we've talked to him before when we were on the radio, but we are excited to sit down. He's here with us in person. You know him as the creator, the director of the Amazon Prime series Washed, filmed here locally. It is Jared Couch joining us.
What's going on, fellas?
What's up, man?
Finally, it's great to be in person.
Yes, it is. It's
a
very
rarity.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, what y'all should know is this is just the first of many, because part of what we like to do is talk to people. And now that we have our own podcast, and so we don't have to pay attention to the clock, we can talk to whoever we want to.
We can.
And so we're going to be doing more of these. I mean, I got some great people lined up. I don't even know if Matt knows about it. I was talking to a personal chef yesterday. Because for whatever reason, personal chefs are coming. I mean, they're like everywhere now.
Guy Fieri?
Yeah, everywhere. No, I wasn't talking to him.
Okay.
So I was talking to this guy for somebody else who wanted to meet him. And we're talking. I go, dude, next time you put a tomahawk on a grill, it just makes me want one. And you know what this dude told me? I promise you, he told me this. He said, well, we could cook one on your show.
Okay.
And I said, don't be playing, man. And then I sent him this long text about, well, go find some dates. And I think he was like, oh, snap, what did I do?
You called his bluff.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, because technically we could set up outside of in my backyard and set up everything and, you know, run the cords and stuff, and then he could grill it on my grill.
Dude.
And show me how to do it on my own grill.
Yes, so I'm going to endeavor to make that happen. You know, we're supposed to go to Drew Pearson's house and talk to him about the memorabilia. See, there's a lot of good stuff going on, man. But it starts with the man with the casting couch.
I produced a cooking show when I worked at the Longhorn
For a
Network.
minute, I thought he was going to say.
With who? Who was the chef?
Augie Garrido. Well, Augie Garrido was the host.
Okay, all right.
The baseball coach of Texas.
The baseball coach, R.I.P. We went around to some of the best restaurants in Austin, Texas. It was called Home Plate with Augie Garrido. And it was a lot like Guy Fieri diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Okay, right.
It was the most fun, some of the most fun I've had in television.
I bet, man. That sounds like fun.
All right, how did that work? The show.
As far as what?
Like you go there and you eat, or
he would go in the kitchen and they would prepare whatever dish that the restaurant wanted to feature, or their most popular dish. And Augie was such a personable guy. He was so much more than baseball. That he was able to carry a show. It started out where it was only supposed to be a segment on the Longhorn Sports Center, and my specialty is giving you too much content. So I went to the powers of be and I said, hey, I can turn this into a 30-minute show. And by the time I left, it became one of the more popular shows on Longhorn Network.
How cool is that?
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because you've been doing TV stuff for basically your whole life, essentially, your whole adult life anyway.
About 17 years. Yeah. Since I showed up on campus at the University of Texas in 2003, I've been doing it ever since then.
That's crazy. So what did you start with originally at Texas, whether directing or producing or whatever it was?
So somebody drugged me, my journalism class. I started off as a journalism major. I only lasted a semester. But one of my classmates said, hey, come on up to the student television station. They have an interest meeting. And I was like, I don't want to do that crap. It sounds boring. But I went. And I was always a diehard sports fan. I actually thought I was going to be like you guys. I thought I was going to be a sports radio broadcast host, because I came up listening to The Ticket. Kurt Menefee was the first person I listened to. I had remembered him from the local news, and he was on The Ticket at that time before he went national. But they drugged me up there, and there was opportunity to work on the sports show, the kind of the student sports center or whatever it was. Yeah. So I did that for a semester, and me being the ambitious person, I was like, all right, I got it. All I need is one semester. And I created my own television show, which was a hip hop television show. And I ran from there. And
was it ever anything like in front of the camera, or was it always behind the camera?
Oh, I started off in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Everybody starts off in front of the camera.
Yeah. But I was doing behind the scenes too, because that's always been my MO, is like I need to be involved in like the sausage making. So.
That sounds like a control freak to me. Yeah. I'm just saying.
Well, no, I think I can understand that, because if you have a vision of how you want things to be, then it's hard if you're not doing the behind the scenes stuff too, because you're taking direction or somebody's telling you what to do or setting up the shot yourself. When with what you do now, I would imagine you have all that control to be like, this is what I visualize, so I know how to make it happen that way.
And also you need, like, when you're working, so that was independent, that was student film and student television,
Right.
and now I'm doing indie, so I always find myself in situations that don't make a lot of money. But you got to have sociopaths and folks that like I will work on it every single day, every single hour. Whereas some people they'll dilly dally, they like it. They don't. It's not necessarily their passion. So I don't necessarily have to be a control freak, but it always ends up where I'm like my hands are in every department.
That's how I feel with this podcast. Like we were talking before we came on about the little noises and the sounds and stuff. And dude, like sometimes after we get done recording, I go through and I'll tighten things or I'll edit out ums or little smacks or like noises or whatever I hear. And then I get obsessed with it and it drives me insane. And I'll spend like an hour just editing out stuff that literally no one else would hear but me.
That's the worst part of being a creative is that it's never done. You just kind of got to let it go. I had somebody, I had a music producer send me a new track for the show and we're airing in the finale this weekend. And it's marginally better, and I want to go back and redo it. But in my heart, I was like, do I really want to spend 14 hours on something?
It's marginally better.
Yeah, nobody will know except me.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's how it ends up being.
No, I told you. I mean, I don't know if I've told you, but, I had an uncle like that. He owned a body shop in Dallas for many years. And then he took his body shop to Nashville where he grew up. And he was brilliant. You could bring in the most wrecked up car and he would make it look showroom new. But he could never make any money, because he'd hired Jared to come in and do it. And Jared was fantastic. And Jared would fix the car, and he'd say, how could you miss this? And you say, what? What are you talking about? This right here, how could you miss that? And Jared'd be like, what are you talking about? The car is perfect.
Right.
That's not perfect. It's right there. You don't see that little dimple? And he'd go back and redo it. And so he could never keep anybody because he'd always go back and redo their work because he was that kind of genius. And so ultimately, you always doing the work again and so that meant as good as his work was, what happened? Oh, you told me I was going to get my car back in a week. Now it's 3 weeks because the week that you would not have noticed anyway, but he couldn't put it out there because he saw that little blemish.
Jacques told me the same story when we had lunch a few months ago, and every time a situation like that comes about, I think about him. And we're doing some promo videos, and they don't generate a lot of views, right? They generate some views on social media.
Yeah.
And I had other editors, and I was like, it's good. Let it go. Let it go. Post it.
Yeah.
It is that way.
No,
it really
I'm serious.
is.
It is. And you have to, if you to be, it's a, what do you call it? Same thing, make you laugh, make you cry. Because that's what makes you good at it. But then if you don't control it, it'll affect your end product.
It's a great lesson, and I have heard it before when I went to business school, and I've talked to folks, is invest in what makes a difference in the product, right? And it's hard when it's your baby because you want everything to be perfect, but it's really a lesson for me, and I'm glad Jock kind of emphasized it for me, like going forward, is like, what makes a difference in a television show? Spend your time on the writing. Spend your time on getting really good people so you don't have to go over their work.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so when you create something like this, and again, it's Jared Couch sitting with us, and Washed is a show that you can watch. There's 2 seasons on Amazon Prime. So you create this, and we're talking about all these control aspects of it. As the guy who creates it and writes it and has the final say on it, how difficult is it for you to let some of those things go, especially to the actors who may take the character in a different direction than you never saw coming before?
See, I think that's the beauty in it. And I always say I'm limited to my own ignorance. So in season 2, season 1 was good. Season 2 is more like a 2.0 than a season 2. We had people come in, like our director of photography, Jamario Washington. Dude is a rising star. Like, he hasn't even got the opportunities he needs to kind of show what he can do, but he transformed the look of our show so it can stand toe to toe with Amazon Prime or Netflix shows. Mm-hmm. So it's not as difficult if they are passionate about it and this is their passion. I know it's their passion. I know they will do the groundwork and say it. A lot of the actors we brought on for season 2, for example, the Brittany Blewett plays Claire. I didn't even know the type of background work she did for her character. She said, I read the script. I felt like this character watched CNN all day. I thought she was a runner, and I thought she drank coffee. She was like, I did none of those 3 things. And I started doing them every day for like 2 or 3 weeks to get into the mind of this character. And so when you have people like that, it's not hard at all to kind of let go.
Now, you wrote the character.
Yeah.
Was the character a runner and a coffee drinker and a CNN watcher?
Very much so. Because it was funny because I wrote the original character was Clint, not Claire.
Right.
And Brittany came in and killed the audition, and it really made the character more dynamic to change it to a woman.
Right.
And that it was a CEO alpha male that turned into an alpha female type persona. So she read it correctly.
So really, that was her interpretation of what a type A person does.
Yes.
All right. See how I got that?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's interesting too, because let's go back to almost the beginning, I guess, because yes, now you're on Amazon Prime, which is kind of badass, I think. I mean, Amazon Prime.
Yeah, like
you.
You know,
like,
I mean, that's big time, man, I think.
I mean, it's Netflix and Amazon Prime.
Right. I mean, that's what I watch. And so at what point did you start? Because I imagine it had to be fairly early on, and maybe not when you're at U2, or maybe when you decide at some point you have this idea that you want to create this show. Mm-hmm. Where's the beginning of that thought come from that you start down the trail that ends up to where it is today?
So the thought came after I worked for ESPN after after undergrad. Then I worked for the Rangers down the street, and I got an MBA. I think I told you all this story before, but got the MBA. And went and got an MBA type job. Lasted for a year. I went from working in the Bank of America building on like the 46th floor to the unemployment line. And so at that point, I thought I was accomplished, but I was collecting unemployment checks. So I went back home, and I grew up in just south of Dallas.
I was going to say, where is home?
Yeah, Wilmer Hutchins.
God, we might have played each other in basketball back in the day.
Hutch!
Where's home for you?
Well, Rockwall, but believe it or not, when I was in 8th grade, I don't know why, in 7th and 8th grade, we played Wilmer Hutchins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't think, maybe we were in the same district back then. I can't remember, but we played in 7th and 8th grade, we played basketball against Wilmer Hutchins.
I remember I think it was my junior or senior year, we were in like the third round of the playoffs, and it was super cold. And I think we went to Rowlett or Rockwall to use the indoor facility.
Had to be. Who's the Richard
Yeah,
Stewart
Rockwall
district?
has one now, but I don't know. I haven't been inside it because they built it after I graduated, when all the rich people started to legit move out there. And now you can't even go in. Like, you have to give a gold bar at the front door to be able to get into the school.
Wow. So back to I went back home, and like I was around some friends, and they were in some nefarious situations, and I felt like a fish out of water. But if you would have backtracked 10 years ago, it wouldn't have felt that unusual, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, it was kind of living these two different worlds, right? I was on one end, I have a wife and a mortgage, brunch on Sundays, maybe a little yoga, and then on this other end,
awesome,
like I'm around some guys that are in some unadulterated gangster stuff, like, right. And it's just kind of balancing these two different kind of identities and coming of adulthood. And that was the impetus behind the story. So once I had the idea, I was like, let me start writing, right? And so I wrote the pilot and talked to some friends, and then we started getting people, hey, you got a post? Can you speak? Can you do this? And then we got the team together. And
how long did it take to write the pilot?
Oh, that's the thing about writing. Once you have the idea, it didn't take long. It took like a day or two to write it.
Okay.
The hardest part for me is getting the idea tight and then start writing and putting ideas down. Sometimes I'll just bang my head up against a wall until I get, an idea that I like.
The beginning of that, where the whole coming of age thing, and I think a lot of the times in your 20s, and maybe even for me, like I always knew what I wanted to do, but it was just a matter of chasing it, trying to get to the point where I could support myself doing it in a sense. Yeah. And then you get it like, and I think everybody knows this now. I mean, Jacques and I are rocking the radio show in a top 5 market, and it's like, okay, this is what I've been trying to work for my whole life. And then that gets taken away. And it's like all of a sudden we're doing this podcast, which when we started, I mean, when I was coming up through radio, I mean, podcast wasn't a thing. It didn't exist.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, and we talked about this in another podcast that we did where, you kind of transition into this idea of, I still want to do this format, I guess. This is where I creatively express myself in a sense. And so now we just moved it into a podcast, but it's always about, I think that's where Washed comes from for you, is chasing that, that creative passion, that ember that burns in you that you've been kind of pursuing for a long time as well.
And I think I texted Jock after that all went down. I was like, I love y'all's pivot. Like, y'all pivoted hard and immediately. And that's what people that want it, that's what you do. And that's kind of what I did. As soon as I had left that job and I was like, all right, I want to do the creative stuff. I didn't, I have the NBA knowledge and I can go do it and I can go probably find another job, but I want to do the creative stuff. So I dove head in. And to be honest, at that time, coming from ESPN, if you're a producer, you produce and you write in Connecticut, right?
Right.
At Longhorn Network, I did a little more because that's more of a local news approach. But when I was on my own and I was doing my own agency, I picked up a camera. I learned more about the cameras. I learned more about editing. I learned more about After Effects, Photoshop. I learned all that stuff because I realized quickly if you're bidding out and it requires all these jobs, if you can do them, you can take more of the pie. And so that's what I did and kind of just went after that once, what I had planned fell through.
What's the process for you when you create Washed and you've got season 1 or however many? I mean, I guess it's the pilot that you're shopping around.
Yeah.
What's that process? Talk us through that I've got a pilot. I think this is badass. This works. Of trying to get somewhere where you can put it on that'll distribute it for you.
So we went ahead and shot, we have 18 episodes. So we shot the whole thing, but kind of
all at once you did?
Not all at once. So we shot the first season. So we shot the pilot first and then we kind of shopped it around to friends, or we kind of showed people that we knew that could give us a good opinion if this sucked or not. Because if it sucked, then we just move along with our life and do something else.
Right.
And then once people were like, this is good, this looks good, it's quality. So we went and did the whole season. To be honest, we've done it backwards.
Right? Yeah, that's interesting.
Because we've shot 18 episodes. After season 1, we went and did a season 2, and we've done 10 episodes. Usually, and this is probably what I'll do going forward, is you write a pilot and you can either take the script and take it out to Hollywood, take it to an agent, take it to a producer and say, hey, this is what I got. If you can find the funds or how to create something, you can go ahead and create it. Because I believe Schitt's Creek, I think that's on Netflix.
Yeah.
I believe they funded their own pilot and then shopped it to Netflix.
Which makes sense because, that cast, they've got all kinds of money.
Yep.
Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara and all those guys that have been around for years in the comedy world.
Yeah, so one of our writers, she hit me up. She's like, hey, the creator is like involved in every single element. And I was like, it's probably because they have some type of, there's some power there because Netflix wouldn't give them all that power to be involved in every single aspect. I don't think. So with a pilot so I'm actually working on my next pilot right now. So once I get done writing that, I'm either going to seek investors or push it out to LA or Atlanta and see if I can get someone to invest in it before I kind of dive head in. With Washed, we kind of took, I don't know if you know who Issa Rae is, but so Issa Rae started off about 10 years ago. She created a show called Awkward Black Girl. It became a hit on YouTube. So much so that it turned into Insecure on HBO.
Okay.
And now Insecure is going on its 5th season. Issa Rae anything she touches is gold. They've started to put her in movies and she's bankable at the box office. To be honest, I think her show is better than some of the movies she's been in, but the movies make their money back and then some just because she's
in it.
Yeah. So we kind of took that route. All right, let's just create it and see if we can build the audience. Because once you have the audience, you have more power.
So when does Amazon Prime come in?
In season 1, we had first put it on YouTube, and YouTube's algorithm was kind of suppressing us, just like every other algorithm does. So I found the Amazon route, and there's an independent track for independent creators. You just have to go through every single step, and they're very stringent on the steps, right? Even down to the captions, which is one of the hardest things to get right. You have to be on point, or they're going to reject you, and you got to start back over from the start and do it again. I almost gave up a couple times, but
I don't understand it. So what do you mean the steps?
So you have to submit your content. You have to submit the video. You have to submit the metadata. You have to submit the graphic. So everything you see on there, when you go to Amazon and you click on it, all that stuff has to be submitted. The descriptions, the graphics, the video, it has to meet their standards, the captions, all that stuff. So it's possible for you to get on there. You just have to go through the steps.
Yeah, that
sounds like a pain in the ass.
It does sound like a pain.
So because YouTube, you can just throw it up there. I could videotape us and it'll be up in 5 minutes.
Right.
Amazon, it takes months and months and months. So
Yeah, that's fascinating. And so now here you are, and you've got this show that is on Amazon Prime that people are aware of and they watch. I mean, what is that like when you start to realize that, oh my God, people are watching my show?
It's funny because somebody hit me up on Twitter this morning, and I don't know the guy. He heard me on actually another podcast a while back, and he's just like, it came under message request too. So I clicked on it, and he's just going on and on about how he loves the show. And
right.
it's crazy because it's just ideas that we came up with and we went out and executed, but then people are really invested in the characters and the storyline. And even one of my good buddies, he's a producer still at ESPN. He's actually got into the show, and he'll call me up to talk about my characters. And it's wild to me because you are this invested in what's going on.
Yeah, that's really cool though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's this whole process I find really fascinating. So
that's because you're a thespian.
Yeah, thespians do it on stage. Have you heard that one before? No? This is a theater thing from high school. Anyways, see, I thought that was funny because every time we have anybody on the show ever that is involved in anything like actual high-level acting, Jock goes, oh, you know, Matt's an actor.
He said that to me, and I was like, hey, I'd love to see his demo reel.
I was like, look, I haven't done anything since
Shakespeare. Hello there.
I did community theater. I haven't done in 10 years, and before that, like when I was in high school, I thought I was going to be an actor. That's what I wanted to be. You know, I majored in for the first couple of years I was in college, I was going to major in theater, and I was in a ridiculous amount of play. I mean, how it is in theater in college, all you're doing is auditioning and going to plays and doing all this crap. And I did, you know, like, see, this is a difference is in college, everybody who's in theater wants to be in movies and whatnot or go to New York. I mean, there is no in between. Either you have a group of friends that wants to go to LA and a group of friends that wants to go to New York back in the day.
Right.
You know, I know Atlanta's up and coming and has a lot going on there too now, but you know, it's this thing where, okay, you always have a film buddy and you're taking, not only are you taking stage classes, you're taking film classes, and your film buddies want to make movies all the time.
Yep.
So then you're just in all these random ass, you know, really kind of bullshit student films, supposedly, you know, and people are like, oh, you're in films. I mean, not really. You know,
not ones you would watch,
right? And then I've done a couple of short films. I had a buddy around here that shot some short films. This is probably like I have an IMDb credit for some short film I was in.
You got an IMDb credit.
How weird!
Breaking news
for like a 12-minute short film.
Hey, don't sell yourself short though.
But you know probably how this is, where you shoot the short film and he was going to take it around and hope somebody picked it up to make it into something more, like Napoleon Dynamite kind of.
Yeah.
And you know nobody ever picked it up, and I don't know. I mean, I saw the 12-minute thing. I was like, that's the last thing I ever did, and so now apparently I'm an actor. Every time we talk to somebody like you, Jacques like, oh, Matt's an actor.
Yeah, I told that to Travolta.
You did, John Travolta, when we had him on the show. And then I got to tell Travolta, I'm like, look, dude, let's not confuse me with award-nominated, you know, A-list movie star John Travolta.
Yeah. And I told him, hey, don't sell yourself short in front of Travolta, man.
Well, true. And so then I'm like, dude, I was in musicals in high school. I mean, what do you want from me?
He might slide you in a row.
He might. You never know. Although I do have a buddy. One of my buddies now is trying to get me to do The Odd Couple with them over in Garland.
See?
So I may do that.
Hello, there.
That'd be fun. You don't have it. No, that's... I love how every actor to you has an accent.
They're all British.
No,
yeah, they are.
But I've always thought, and this is a process, like for you, how long is your typical film day? Are you doing like 14, 16-hour days?
Oh, yeah, every day. So season 2, and that was the thing when we brought on Jamario as our director of photography, his background is like, that's what he does for a living. So he wasn't cutting any corners. We did, most days were 15 days, and my favorite story is our 25-hour day.
Oh, God.
And that's indie film for you because we had
trying to figure out how you spend all that time on it.
So we had shot for like 5 or 6 hours on Friday because we only had one scene to do that day. And then on Saturday we did 15 hours. And then on Sunday, it was the last day we had this Airbnb. And this is indie film for you. So I showed up at 6 a.m. and we wrapped the last scene at like 2 or 3 in the morning. But that's when the actors go home. Then you have to pack everything up, get the Airbnb in indie film. So we didn't end up leaving that Airbnb because we got to make sure it's tight and we get our deposit back until about 7 a.m. on Monday.
Damn. Why does it take 5 hours to shoot a scene, man?
It's because that's all the actors, the season 1 actors was like, oh, when you had the camera, it didn't take this long. I was like, because I'm not worried about edge lighting and fill lighting and all this stuff. I was like, oh, can we see you? Even lighting?
So this is Jamario's fault.
Yes, but it looks so much better.
Dude, I mean, I am telling you, Because, and again, just a couple of, like, even with student films, you always had the one guy who really wanted to be a director, and you feel like you're wasting your life. Like, film sets are a beating, man. Like, I swear you spend 90% of your time sitting and waiting, and it maybe even less than 10% of your time actually acting.
Yep. And that's why they have trailers. Because most of the times you have the crew and then some stand-ins. Like they'll have stand-ins for you
to get everything right.
Because, and then especially if you're shooting, like we shot single camera. If you have multicam, then you can move a little faster. But we had single cam, so every time we switch, we're doing an ISO here, and then we switch to your ISO. We have to worry about what's behind you now, and you got to reset that background, and it's just. It's a lot.
It's a beating, man. I remember I took a few film classes in college. Well, I mean, the end product is, but like you're talking, like you really got to have a passion for it. Like people always say, I want to be in movies. I'm like, go be in a film. And when you're bored out of your mind for 12 hours and then you have to reshoot the same damn scene like 15 times in a row, and you're like, okay, I've already done this, and you're starving and you can't leave the set, then go tell me you want to be an actor.
And we did this on weekends, and we shot for 5 months, and I saw the faces of some of the people on that 5th month, and when I say they were over it, they were over it. But what I call the killers that we had on set, you could see it in their, like the hunger in their eye. They didn't care. This was day 40 on month 5, and we were in our last hour, and they were ready to rock.
It's tough, man. The film world is tough. That's why, because I think so many people that are pursuing acting and they always, we were told this in college, I'm sure it's still true, I've heard it, people talk about it, that like 2% of actors actually make a living at it. There's all these people that are acting, like people like how I was, that loved it and wanted to be on stage or in film, that you never hear about, that are like just busting their ass, taking every role they can get, doing these 15, 16-hour days. They're not stars. They're not the millionaires. They got to work and work and work at it for a long time. Sometimes you get a big break. Sometimes you don't.
So acting for actors, I envy them in one sense, because a lot of actors, they can just, once they're done with the project, they move on to the next one, and they can do multiple projects. Now, on the flip side, they don't really control anything in the process. So, it's on my end, I'm with the project for 2 years, but I can control all the elements.
How easy has it been for you when you're shooting around Dallas to get places to allow you to come in and to film and to have things shut down where you guys can actually set up and do your thing?
Not as hard as it would be in LA. They're pretty receptive in Dallas because it isn't oversaturated. Yeah. Now I'm seeing more and more indie filmmakers pop up in Dallas, so it's going to become harder.
How do you do that?
What's that?
I want to shoot in front of the AAC. What I got to do?
I wouldn't do that, but if you want to do that, you need to go through the city of Dallas, get the permits, talk to the AAC.
Right.
I don't deal with buildings like that. But if it's a local club or a local restaurant or an apartment or something like that, what I do, like we had in season 2, we had this dynamic club. It was amazing. Looks awesome. It looked great on camera. I rolled up there one day. I saw that they were in, and I poked my head in. I was like, hey, introduced myself, kind of sold them the dream. Like it's all, every location I had to sell them a dream. And then once they like, well, how much money you got? And I'm like, I ain't got much. And then you do the negotiation back and forth. And usually I would target locations that were closed at least on a Sunday. They would hardly ever be closed on Saturday, but sometimes some locations were closed all weekend. And then, you just got to talk to them. And luckily, we had this one location, one character, he was supposed to be a mechanic. I couldn't get a garage to let us use their garage. And I went all around South Dallas and trying to get it. And I was riding by a thrift store on Ross and Peak, close to my house. And I was like, what if he owned a thrift store and was a mechanic in the back and he cut hair? What if we turned him into Hustle Man, right? And I just went in there, and nice lady owned it, and I talked to her, and she was like, yeah, you can use it. So
he changed jobs.
Yeah. So and that was a lot of times, your pivot game has to be hard in indie film. If you can get this location, all right, then this is how it's going to happen, And one time there was one location we couldn't get because it was written so a character was eavesdropping or stalking his former girlfriend in a house. So basically you need a house with a see-through window where the kitchen's right there and they're making dinner. I was like, you know what? We're going to have to change this to a picnic in the park. And he's stalking them there. So Yeah, all the locations was kind of just selling the dream.
Now here's the one thing I'm curious about as a writer. How do you develop a character?
You go back all the way to their childhood, and you have the idea for the character and it isn't fully developed, but then you have to go back and, all right, how did this person grow up? What turned them into the person they are today? And then that's where you can write the dialogue and how they would react to certain decisions.
Now, do you do that in your head, or you actually write down?
Yeah. So when I came into season 2, again, to be honest, I've never been in a professionals writer's room, so I went it by how I felt the best way. So in season 2, I created a writer's room. So 6 people, 3 women, 3 men. And then we had a consulting team, a red team, that when we finished a draft, we would throw it over to them to poke holes in it. So what we did is created a 26-page narrative. And that's for the entire season. And each writer had, because we were an ensemble in season 2, each writer had a character and they built out a narrative for that character all the way throughout the season. They would give it to me. I picked the parts I wanted and then weaved it into a storyline that created that 26-page narrative. And then from that 26-page narrative, we created 13 episodes, and each writer would take an episode and then create a treatment for that episode. And the treatment is just an outline of what was happening in that. They would send it to me. I would tweak it to make. So my job is like a showrunner, and the head writer is to make sure everything made sense. Right. And so that's how it worked. You really just write it down, that person's backstory and the character development.
How fluid are you with do you direct every episode yourself?
Yes. I had toyed with the idea of having multiple directors, but then it became a situation where they weren't as invested as I was early on. So what I had to do early on was say, I got it. Yeah. And the one director, Nadira Shakir, who was really involved, she was my assistant director. She co-directed episode 1. So that's what we did. But I look forward to the day where I can be a showrunner and I can direct a couple episodes, but have multiple directors, because I think that gives you a greater perspective and a different eye for each episode. And that's what I really want, because I just want some variety.
Do you feel like your vision, because that's, I guess, where my question was going with the fluidity of having other people involved in it, from that aspect of it behind the scenes, do you feel like they have an understanding of your vision at this point now to where that could happen?
Yes. Yeah. And I think they could have and that's another thing as far as like, I want to break out of the indie ranks and into where we're working Monday through Friday and not Saturday and Sunday. So if I could really sit down and convey it and work with them, and they could really work 8 to 15 hours a day on pre-production, they would have the vision and where I see it going. I don't think that's a problem at all.
What is it you like most about Wash 2.0?
To go back to, so Jamario's one, so he changed the visual aspect of the show night and day. It looks so much better. Byron Hardy, which you went to school with his father,
right?
He plays the lead character, Eric, and I love that it's an ensemble. Right. I love that the show is ensemble. So you get different perspectives of the Wash spectrum. Right. So I would say it's hard to say. I'm really proud of I think the story is engaging and it brings people in, and you can see yourself in at least one character.
Right.
So I'm really proud. So the tagline is Do Dreams Expire? And on camera, the storyline reflects that. They're chasing their dreams, but all the while behind the scenes, we're also chasing our dreams. Right. And so I'm proud of the whole cast and crew. And I don't mean to give you a political answer, because I gave you like 15.
Because you never really answered.
Yeah. If I had to say anything, I'd say the look of it. Because
I see, I'm fascinated because you keep talking about that. Why does it? What is the look that's so much different?
So Mario, when we first met, we met at a Starbucks.
Everybody meets at Starbucks.
And my wife is like, stop meeting everybody that hits you up on LinkedIn or Instagram.
No, you never know.
90% of them are trash, but those 10% give me a director of photography that I'm gonna work with for maybe the rest of my career. So when he first approached me, he's like, I want to light black skin properly.
Whoa, that's deep now.
Yes.
That's deep, because we come in a lot of different shades, dog.
And he has a whole vision of what he wants to do. And he's like, you don't need a lot of light for black skin because it absorbs the colors. So he also doesn't like putting a lot of light on there, because he's like,
what color is he?
Huh? He's black.
No, I mean, what shade of black?
Oh, he's dark skin.
See?
But he also says he doesn't like put a lot of light on you. He's like, because the way I look at you, I see shadows reflecting off of you right now, right? So that's what he did. He kind of, if you'll see all the neon colors and the richness of season 2. Now when he watches it, he wants to get better, and he's like,
he's obsessed with it. He's like, look at that shadow over there.
Yeah,
it's not what I want it to be.
How doth they turn gray skies?
Because I think everybody in theater's got a
apparently yes. Everybody that has ever done theater is a Shakespeare actor, which is actually like the hardest theater on the planet to do. I think anyway. But yeah,
of course it is.
No, seriously, it's difficult.
So that question is so hard to answer because, as you know, film, there's so many phases to it. The pre-production writer's room, production, post-production, marketing, everybody shines in some aspects, right? Like if you were to ask me what's your favorite part about the marketing, is our marketing director, Dexia Smith, she's like the human Red Bull, and she's just
she's energetic now.
You got to have that though for that.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so proud of the team, because I usually found 1 or 2 people in each process that was what I deem a killer. Like they weren't going to stop. Like they wanted the job done.
That is awesome, man. Lighting is the craziest thing in the world to me. Now, I never did anything with film for lighting, but the hardest class I ever took in my entire lifetime was stage lighting for theater.
Really? How come?
Yeah, because of what he's talking about. To have that type of eye, because our guy, he gives us like our whole thing. We had one assignment all semester, either pass or fail the class, and you had to light an entire show.
Wow.
And so we're like, well, what the hell? And then, he'd help you out through it. Like you'd go in and tell him like, well, here's what I'm thinking for this scene or whatever. He goes, oh, so you're going to put that gel on that light and your character's wearing a green jacket? That doesn't make any sense. So what do you want it to look like? When it spills back behind, and you're like, oh my God. He's like, you need to adjust the angle like 5 degrees. And like literally that type of eye, because who sees like that?
And that was us on set. Like our season 1 people were like, Jared, why is it taking so long to get the shot set up? I was like, let the man do his thing. We'll wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, but to think of stuff like that, like the way your shadow is coming off or the way the light hits the different skin colors and things like that, and then it's like, what is your character wearing? What's behind you? Because the light that spills off, do we want that light? Is it going to distract from the way it's hitting behind? I mean, all these different things dudes that can do that are on a different planet, man, for me anyway.
That's why he wants to work with him.
He's a genius.
Have y'all watched Lovecraft Country?
No, but I've heard about it. I've heard it's really good.
Yeah, it's a sick show. So I watched like a 30-minute behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I yearn, that's a word. I yearn for the day when I was just watching these people in their different departments, and they were all like that, even in the most minute positions. And I was like, just to have that one day where every single person is just a psychopath about the wardrobe or a psychopath about a prop or a visual effects. It's just, and they're just so talented. They're way more talented than you could ever be in your position. Because in season 1, I was the one that was like doing the lighting, and
right, yeah.
And it looked okay,
but it looked good. But he's an expert at it.
I was doing high key lighting. He was doing low key lighting, and that worked better for what we wanted to do.
Yeah, it's crazy because I've been listening. Shockingly, I listen to our podcast, but I also listen to other ones. And one that I listen to because I'm a huge Sopranos fan, and 2 of the actors from The Sopranos started one called Talking Sopranos. And they have all these people that helped throughout the process of doing that show on. And they'll have, like second directors, and they've had a casting director on about that whole process. And some of it, the one I was listening to today was a guy who originally started on the B camera and became the director of cinematography over the course of it. And to hear that conversation was really interesting just because of some of the things that you're talking about. And you sit there and I'm thinking, this is a dude who I guarantee you 99.9% of the population couldn't ever name him. But it is like before James Gandolfini died, was like best friends with him, was around all these people and is a star in his own right, in his own area. He's just not in front of the camera, so nobody really knows who he is.
There's so many like contributors to a television or film project. Our casting director, we had a casting director in season 2, and me being the control freak, we had like 200 people inquire about 4 roles.
Really? And see, that ought to make you feel good. Oh, because I'm sure at one point you're like, I'm surprised I didn't get called. Like, you got some time?
In season 1, I was calling people, hey, can you speak audibly?
Oh, it's awesome.
And in the casting call, I'm over here trying to take control. And she's like, Jared, I got this. Just sit back and figure out who you want. I'll coordinate stuff. I was like, okay, all right.
Right.
And she's a star in her own right. Like, she dominated that process.
Yeah,
right?
it's strange, man. Like, the people that end up doing that. Like, I knew a girl when I was younger who wanted to be in acting and tried out in LA and it didn't take off. So she started her own casting company, and now her and this dude that she partnered with have one in LA and Atlanta.
Yep.
And that's what she does. And I've always, like, there's so many different roles that are fascinating in this process that all have to merge together to create what we're watching on a small screen or whatever it is.
So many people go after the glamorous jobs when it's the connectors that are the ones that work all the time and that really make it go.
So do you have any aspiration for film, like actual feature length stuff versus television shows?
Absolutely. I would definitely do film, and that's what I'm kind of going back and forth on this pilot I'm writing is, should it be a film or should it be a series, right? Not only am I working on that, but I'm working on a couple other short films as well now. Some horror thriller stuff, which isn't necessarily in my alley, but I'm willing to give it a shot, and if I'm not the right director, I will step aside and be a producer and just kind of pull stuff together. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in all that.
I like that. Well, if you ever need a guy to play a deranged serial killer, let me know. I think I'd have fun with that. That's about it.
Yeah, I bet you would.
I would, man.
Now, Matt and I often we have a segment on the show called Peep Show. Mm-hmm. It's not nasty though, although it could be depending on what you're watching.
What kind of stuff do you watch that would be nasty?
Well, I'm talking about the collective you, not me.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
Typically, I don't even like to watch rated R stuff most of the time.
Okay. All right.
Okay, 1X, but not 3.
You don't like to watch high quality anything, which is like rated R. Rated R is like real to me. It's like rated real.
Jacques only likes network television.
Dude,
right?
If I could tell y'all, man, I'm for real. Like, I probably ain't watched no network TV in like 3 or 4 years.
I don't know. Ever since like Netflix and Prime and all that got really popular, it's so hard to watch network.
The last show I watched religiously on network TV, you could probably guess what it is.
You have to tell me.
It's a drama.
Oh, Law and Order.
Scandal.
Criminal Minds.
Okay. Criminal Minds. All right.
That's the last thing I watched, but then it became so episodic that, it's 47 after. Guess they're about to unveil the killer now.
It is that way. We watch This Is Us on NBC, and that's the only network show. I know it's sappy and cheesy, but I don't know. Like, we got into it, and it's 4 or 5 seasons in now, and so you're like invested into.
I heard it's really good.
So
I think it's good for network.
What is it that you watch?
The Wire is my favorite one, which I've already told you guys that. Recently, a more recent show is Atlanta by Donald Glover.
Is that on? Where is that?
FX, yeah.
Have you watched Snowflake?
Snowfall.
Oh, perhaps that was a Freudian slip.
I've seen a couple episodes. There are some amazing shots in that show. I need to sit down and really watch it. It's actually been on my list. But the few episodes I saw were really good.
I need to tape that.
But Atlanta, Donald Glover. So they're shooting seasons 3 and 4 at the same time right now, and
that seems odd.
It seems odd unless a lot of the locations are in the same spot. Then you just knock them out, because that's the way we did it. If we, like that Airbnb we had 15 scenes in that person's apartment, and we knocked them all out that weekend, whether it was episode 1 or episode 10.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, and that's difficult.
I was gonna say, that seems crazy to keep that all straight.
Well, and then the person that rents out the Airbnb turns on the TV one day and is like, that's my place.
Yeah.
That's kind of awesome.
Usually I try to tell them, but it all depends on how you got to feel the situation out. And that was why I was so impressed with Byron Hardy. Right. He had like 15 scenes that week that he had to memorize in addition to being a producer.
Wow.
Damn. Right? So
he a lot smarter than his old man.
He's really smart. So they're doing 3 and 4 right now. And Donald Glover isn't the type to kind of boast himself up on Twitter. He said these seasons 3 and 4 are Sopranos level.
Damn, really?
That's a bold thing to say.
That is bold.
Right, it is.
Yeah, it's interesting because my lady friend had never seen The Wire. So we started watching it like a month ago. And this is my second time through, and we're halfway through season 4 right now. We just got halfway through last night.
My favorite season.
Dude, The Wire is so unbelievably good. Like, so just, like, it's up there with Sopranos. Like, I've always thought, like, I had it in my top 3 with Sopranos and Breaking Bad, but watching that back, the ensemble cast, the way that they put it together, yes, and like how they use the city and to tell all the different angles. Yep. Like, every season almost stands alone, and yet it's all intertwined. It's phenomenal.
I was listening to the audiobook of the making of all the people behind it, and the creator's name I'm forgetting right now. David
Simon?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe. Anyway, he mapped out all those seasons beforehand. Like all that stuff was planned.
Damn.
Which I find fascinating, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, The Wire is definitely in my top 3. Euphoria. I watched the first season of Euphoria on HBO.
I ain't never even heard of that. What is that?
Zendaya is the lead. It's tough, and especially if you got a high school kid, you might. I know one of my friends, Jamario, he has a daughter now. He's like, I couldn't watch it because it deals a lot with drugs in high school and bipolarness and mental issues. But it's out there. But Zendaya did an amazing job. She actually won an Emmy recently for it. Euphoria. So I watch Euphoria. I watch Atlanta. I watch Insecure. What are some of the other ones? My wife always has me. She loves. We just binge watch. We were watching Cobra Kai the other day.
Dude, Cobra Kai. Well, and it's cheesy as hell, I feel like. But if you grew up on Karate Kid, because we're not that far apart in age, I mean, I used to love the Karate Kid in the 80s. And so now to see that stuff, I was like, I don't even care how cheesy this is. I love the nostalgia of it. And they made it make sense.
I think it's cheesy on purpose.
It works.
Yeah, it works. Yeah,
I mean, I love it.
Yeah, it's good. So those are a few shows I watch.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of really good television out there right now. That's where it's like you just got to make a list. You're like, okay, we're going to this next.
Dude, I've been watching a show I think it's called Saburo, Blood on Rome.
What?
It's about it's
about the pizza place in the mall?
No, that's Sabaro.
Oh.
No, but it's shot in Rome, and it's about the real mafia, and it's a mafia. There's a faction from the mafia. There's some gypsies, and then there's somebody else who's like running the mafia, and they're all intertwined doing gangster stuff to each other, and it is deep.
What's it on?
It's on Netflix.
It is?
Subaro.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. God, there's just too many damn shows.
But see, it's in Italian, and they dub it.
Oh, I can't do that. I've tried it.
But it's the good dub where you can't tell. It's not like the old Chinese movies.
Yeah.
It's because I be looking at the lips like, and every now and then I catch it.
Yeah, man, that's tough for me.
The stuff is so good, man, because the lead gangster's gay, which
Omar.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But that's what I'm saying.
Omar's coming.
He's this alpha dude over here who can't sleep with his chosen wife because he ain't got no interest in her.
Yeah.
So that's just deep, man.
Interesting.
Lovecraft is another one. Defending Jacob. I was kind of racking through ones. Have y'all seen Defending Jacob?
Man, see, I could tell you an indie film guy. You got all this stuff I never even heard. I thought I should have heard.
It's not indie, but it's good. Mr. Mercedes. Y'all ever seen that one? That one's pretty good. That's an AT&T show. This is the golden age of television, right?
Yeah, that's the thing is that there's so much. And one thing, like my lady, I swear, had never seen anything. So we watched Sopranos again, like a few months ago because she'd never seen it. Sopranos. And I'd seen it twice.
I've seen it once.
See, and I loved it. And we watched Breaking Bad all the way through again because she had never seen it. And so I was like, all right, here are my greatest shows of all time. You need to watch these. Yeah. Like, we're just going to watch them.
See, my wife wasn't a big fan of The Wire. Now, season 4 she loved, and it broke.
God, it's good. It's so good.
It broke her heart. I just feel like you have to get to season 3 because season 1's good. Season 2 is such off the beaten path with the docs.
Yeah, the docs is weird. But watching it again, I have a way better appreciation for it. Yeah, like I didn't like it the first time, and this time I was like, why didn't I like this? This is really good
because there wasn't a lot of shoot 'em up action in it.
It could be, and it got away from, I think that there's for whatever reason, there's an appeal to kind of like the, and it's interesting too, because you see kind of the dichotomy of we think the drug dealers are bad, but yet that's just the environment that they grew up in. They're trying to make a living and support their families and whatnot the same way that these cops that we think are good are trying to do the same. And they are actually both doing criminal activities.
There was a meme the other day that said, Stringer Bell, the show villain, McNulty, the real villain.
I mean, you can make a case.
Yeah.
And you see it from the top all the way down of how, especially in season 4, which I think is fascinating to see the political involvement of the way that they're trying to do things to protect the mayor, and it's got to come all the way down. Like, what the hell?
So with our show, the crew they call me every time I make a Wire reference, and in the writers' room, there's like, Jared, stop trying to make the show The Wire. So one of my most dynamic characters, and probably the most unique one is the character played by Byron Hardy. His name is Eric, and he's a drug dealing bookworm. So he's super smart. He will quote Greek mythology. He will quote like Maslow's hierarchy of needs or the Sword of Damocles, and he'll just psychoanalyze you on the spot, and he'll do it in this really cool way. But if you really listen to what he's saying, it sounds like a college professor. But he's also a drug dealer. And it's kind of like The Wire in that he never wanted to be in this life. He just lost the zip code lottery is what I call it, right? You just happened to be born, say, in South Dallas, and that's what was around you, and you had to resort to that for whatever reason. And that's and that's what The Wire paints a lot of times, like, especially in season 4 with the kids. Yeah. All those kids are pretty good. Yep. Even the bad ones. Even the bad ones. And ironically, the one that was actually bad or was trying to be hard ended up the one that got out. But a lot of them weren't inherently bad people. Yeah. But you saw what they were about to evolve to. And because you saw the grown-up versions of those kids all around them and in the show.
Yeah, it's a fascinating show, man. I mean, it is really, really good.
And it hurts because it's real. Like, all that stuff isn't contrived. Like, because the creators were Baltimore police, so they knew it inside and out.
That's what I thought. Like, the character Snoop, played by, I think it's Rachel Pearson or whatever her name is. You know, she was actually real. She was convicted of second-degree murder and spent a couple of years or whatever it is in prison.
That hardware store scene is one of the greatest scenes in television history.
It is awesome. Where she's buying that nail gun.
I wish I could write a scene that dynamic.
And she's just, and that guy is just like staring at her, you know? And then she ends up tipping him $100.
Dude,
I mean, it is.
He's about to pee himself.
Dude, fascinating. This was an awesome conversation, man.
Thank y'all for having me.
Like, I feel like I could talk to you for like 4 hours about this whole process. It just is fascinating to me. And I think a lot of people, because again, people watch the show and then there's so much more that goes into it. And I think it's really cool to hear about all the behind the scenes things.
Especially for a dude from Hutch.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been meaning to go back. You get so busy with life, you don't ever go back. I need to go back to Wilmer Hutchins. But yeah, no, it's been an honor. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope it's the foundation to something bigger and more prosperous. But
yeah, I hope so, man. When you win your Oscars and whatnot,
can we just get invited to the party?
Yeah, all right. We'll just go to the Oscar party or whatever party there is.
Just Oscar party.
Yeah, whatever it is, and we won't even talk to the famous people. Jock will.
No, I will.
I'll just be in the corner waiting for somebody. Like, who are you?
Jock will know all the famous people.
I know, he will. He'll be like, oh, hey, over here.
They'll be over there whipping his ass with Cowboys questions. So what do you think about DiNucci and Gilbert? Who's going to win that?
That's always a good starter for me.
Yeah, and it'll be the best. He gives them about 30 seconds and then moves on.
Yeah, I do that.
Jared Couch, man, really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to the Jam Session Podcast. Find us on Instagram at Jam Session Cast. We're also available on our YouTube channel. Subscribe today. Trust me, you're going to want to. We have some really big things coming up on YouTube by searching Jam Session Podcast. Don't forget, on Friday at 4 o'clock, we will be broadcasting live on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube or join us on location at Oak Highlands Brewery in Lake Highlands, the area of Dallas there, right off of 635 and Miller Road at Oak Highlands Brewery on Friday at 4 o'clock. You can find us on Twitter at McMattRadio at JJT_journalist. Thanks to Purple Elephant Music for the music you hear at the end and beginning of each episode. He's the radio and TV star, the sexy Jean-Jacques Taylor. And I'm just a guy, Matt McLaren. Please remember, tell a friend. If you enjoy what we do, tell your friends to help support what we have going on. Subscribe, rate, and review the Jam Session Podcast, and we'll catch you next time on the Jam Session Podcast, available everywhere you listen to podcasts.